Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jamie Pluff, Greg DeMontier,
Here.
Carol Langford, Danielle Matt, Bing Matt, James Steele Jr.,
Morning.
Martin Charlo. I just saw him walk. There's Martin. Len Tooteeth,
I'm here.
Lanice Trahan.
Carol, will you give us a prayer this morning?
Creator, today we just give thanks for the sunshine and light, the wind and the air and water and everything that goes along with it. We just ask you to watch over us as we deliberate on issues that come before us. We ask you to give us the answers to all the things that we're dealing with today and in the future. We also ask for a prayer for our elders and our children, keep them safe and strong. And a special prayer for all the families who have recently lost loved ones. And we also pray for the upcoming holiday, Easter. Just give you thanks. Omiate.
Thank you, Carol. You have minutes from the 26th. Motion to approve the March 26 minutes by Len. Second by Danielle. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Got 6 and Tom abstains and Martin abstain. So 6, 4 and 2 abstains. We do have an agenda for today. Anything to add to the agenda? We have a couple walk-ins. Oh, yeah. Then. Yeah. Welcome a motion on
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Len to approve the agenda with additions. Second by Tom, all in favor? We're unanimous. So we'll go to our first walk-in. Did you have an order for the walk-ins, Jennifer?
You on either one.
Okay. Morning, Jessica, come on up. Any place and turn a microphone on, and I'm wondering, do you want executive or just open?
I'm just gonna wing it.
Okay.
So I prepared a little something to read because you guys know I get nervous. So good morning, council members. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak to you today. My name is Jessica Lozo, and I'm an enrolled member of this tribe. I am here to respectfully share a concern regarding the recent hiring decision within Tribal Social Services. CSKT Policy 69D, Part 6, the application screening process states that selections for interviews is based on and how closely an applicant's qualifications align with the specifications outlined in the vacancy announcement. I was selected for an interview for the CPS program manager position, which led me to believe that I met the qualifications being considered. However, I was not selected for this role. I am seeking clarity regarding that decision given my background and my experience. I have over 4 years' experience as a CPS worker. Over the past year, I have worked in drug court for the tribe and the state, as well as an outpatient treatment center. I hold a certificate in trauma and resilience focused on Indigenous people, and I have earned my associate's degree in chemical dependency. I am about 10 weeks away from completing my bachelor's degree in social work. I have intentionally built my education and my career around serving our people in a good way. For that reason, it is difficult for me to understand how qualifications are being evaluated, particularly when there are individuals in similar or related roles who were able to serve prior to obtaining their bachelor's degrees. And there are other workers currently working in positions that list the degree as a requirement but do not hold credentials past a high school diploma. My concern is not about any individual in particular. I respect those who serve in these roles. Rather, my concern is about fairness, consistency, and the opportunity, especially for tribal members who have invested in education and experience to serve our community. CSKT Policy 69D Part 3 outlines tribal preference, prioritizing enrolled members for the Confederate Salish and Kootenai tribes in hiring when qualifications are met. I am asking for clarification on how this policy is being applied in practice. I also want to emphasize the importance of tribal social services. The work done in this department directly impacts our children, our families, and the future of our tribe. Our children are our future, and it is our responsibility to ensure that they are supported, protected, and given every opportunity to grow in a healthy and strong community. This requires investing in individuals who are prepared, committed, and deeply connected to both the work and the people they serve. As a tribe, our authority and responsibility to govern and care for our people is rooted in the Hellgate Treaty of 1855, which established our reservation and affirmed our sovereignty and rights. This foundation is strengthened through the Indian Recognition Act and our tribal constitution, which formalizes our system of self-governance, as well as through continued federal recognition and our inherent sovereignty. These laws and agreements are not just legal framework. They reflect our responsibility to uphold our values, govern fairly, and invest in our own people. The CSKT mission statement emphasizes adopting traditional principles and values in all facets of tribal operations and services, investing in our people to ensure self-sufficiency and strengthening our community for future generations. I believe this includes ensuring that hiring practices are fair, transparent, and supportive of qualified tribal members who are committed to serving. I am respectfully asking the council to help me better understand the decision and to consider whether the hiring process reflects these values.
Carol, go ahead.
Yeah, we didn't do the hiring,
I understand that.
so how would we know? I mean, I haven't talked to anybody about the circumstance.
So my problem that I'm having is I was selected for an interview. No, she was not. I went and talked to Corky. He wasn't on the interview. I talked to him last week. He asked me to give him a few days. He said he would call me by Thursday, and I did not hear from him at all. I brought concerns to him. I went up the chain of command like I was supposed to. He let me know that I was not selected, which I understand, but my question is if you look at the black and white policies.
But we weren't in the interview, so I think the next step would be Michelle, that you need to talk to.
Go ahead, Len.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. Jess, thanks for coming in this morning. You know, when we come across these types of situations, this specific situation, when we have a member and a non-member that's still applying for the same job, if you have questions about the policy, you have every right to come in and ask us. So thank you for coming in this morning. And but yeah, right now I think with the our next move is probably to have the discussion with Michelle, because at that particular time Michelle was not available to be able to sit in on those interviews, which she typically would have been there. But we need to make sure that that we have the other staff people in those interviews, people that work close together with that position.
And I
Yeah.
did raise that concern with Corky. I asked, because I worked in social services, how come the prosecutor's office wasn't involved, as they are a crucial part of working with social services hand to hand in every decision that's made.
And I don't have an answer for you on those. It was just one of those situations, and I don't know why they weren't contacted or nothing, but the council opted to re-advertise the position just to make sure that we go through the process and everybody gets a fair shake at it. So.
Jessica, and the policy, it talks about preference being applied at hiring. And so when the application's put in and the original screening is done, they look to see that you meet the requirements of the job description on paper. And if you do, then you're given an interview. And then in the interview process, the interviewers have the responsibility to actually evaluate whether the eligibility is there or not. And then upon hiring is when the policy is applied right now, when we're actually discussing that. But that's where it's at right now. And so I don't know what happened in the interview process. And so that is what I'd have to find out. If in the interview process, they recognized somehow that you didn't meet the eligibility. I don't know that. I'll have to discover that.
And that's what I'm trying to understand is there's current workers now that don't hold degrees, but their position descriptions require a degree. And they're not looking at further education. They're just there. But yet I meet the qualifications. I am a tribal member. I've worked in that field for many years and I've tailored my entire educational career for this job.
I understand what you're saying, and I need to talk to the people who did the interview. That's where I have to actually distinguish what they actually looked at in the interview. So right now the policy is in place on hiring, which is right after the interview. So that's the crucial question that I'd have is why weren't you basically recognized as totally eligible for that position description? I don't know that.
And I have reapplied. I did resubmit my application. I updated everything to reflect my new position. And I have concerns that I'm going to get screened out.
I understand. I do. And I'll ask a few questions.
Okay.
Go ahead, Martin.
So you don't have your degree yet?
In 10 weeks, I am in my
You don't
final.
have your degree yet, right?
No,
So does the PD require a degree?
it does.
Okay, then that's why it was an accident that you were screened through. They chose to re-advertise based on this. This was a month ago. You don't meet the minimum requirements for the position. It was a mistake by our personnel department. I apologize for our personnel department doing a horrible job of screening out applicants, but that's where we're at.
But
So that's the best understanding that I can give you.
I've worked for the tribe for over 10 years. I've dedicated my life to this tribe, to my people. And I have seen so many times position descriptions being changed, modified, but it's always to accommodate a non-tribal member. I know for a simple fact that there's at least 4 people working in that department who the position descriptions were changed for them to be able to move into those positions before they were able to obtain their degrees. But I have 2 other degrees and experience.
We're not arguing those positions right now. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I've missed some of the dialogue here, whatever's going on. I'm sorry, I was gone a little bit here. My only question is in hiring, this is a program manager position you were talking about?
Yes,
And this is in DHRD?
yes.
My biggest concern here is that when you're hiring leadership team and it's led by people who are acting can be a serious flaw. Because really what you want is your permanent employees and supervisors picking those associates. They're leaders in the program, in the department. So, I'm not sure why they could have waited a little bit longer. And then, when they have permanent department head, fill some of these critical positions at that time. I don't know. That's my question about the whole thing, if that's relevant. But I think everybody tries to do the process, but I'm not sure, the correct people, decision makers that needed to be there, both in timing of when it happens and who's on the interview committee, were present. That would be my biggest concern for a department that seems to be struggling.
Being that none of us were in the interview, we can't really speak to the interview. And so, as I said, I'll ask a few questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chess.
Feeling for
Mary Raindollar? Morning.
Mr. Chairman, before we get started on this, I asked Mary to come in and do a short introduction. She's one of the new providers here at the Pablo Clinic, so I just so I asked her to come in.
So it's pronounced Rhine dollar, although I'm pretty sure every tribal member says Rhine dollar. So I might give it up and just go back to Rhine. My name is Mary Reindaler. I'm a physician assistant. I've been a PA for 30 years. I raised my kids in Dillon. Some of my kids. I had 2 stepkids, 2 biological, and 3 girls that moved into my house when they were 15 and wouldn't leave. Those girls are all 27. My youngest one is 25. My oldest one is 36. When I talked to Lynn, he said, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. So, I have lived in the West, pretty much since I was a PA. I've lived in Salmon, Dillon, Carson City. I've done all kinds of different types of medicine. I've done sports medicine, total hips, total knees, trauma medicine, emergency medicine, family practice, internal medicine, women's medicine, pain management, a couple urgent cares, high acuity urgent cares. So I've done a lot in my 30 years. I told Lynn that since I started working for the tribe 4 months ago, my face hurts from smiling so much. I am having an absolute blast. I love working for the tribe. That's one of the best experiences I've ever had. And I've done a lot of different things. I really liked orthopedics too. It was fun. I got to go to the OR and cut on things and, but he said that the council should know who the providers are. I'm one of your providers and I'm over at the health, but I see a lot of walk-ins. I'm seeing a lot of people come over the bridge to see me. I usually start with 1 to 3 patients, and by the end of the day, I'm at 11 to 14. So it just kind of evolves during the day. Any questions you guys have for me?
Welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Tom, go ahead.
Well, I'm glad that you're there and the clinic's running, because I think they shut it down for a while. Kind of.
When KT left in March, Karen Thompson, everybody calls her KT. They say I'm a lot like her. I've never met the woman, so I don't know. But she left in March, and then Patricia Kelly and Brenda were sharing the position, I think, from then until, and I kind of just dry called Dr. Coram and said, hey, I'm looking for a position. This is my experience. She interviewed me and I started in December. So,
That's great.
and I plan on being here from 5 to 10 years.
My observation of that clinic over there was a high visitation clinic, and it needed to be staffed 100% and critical care for this location.
Yeah.
It was like, it was surprising that I was a little troubled by Tribal Health and the partnership at the college location here. And I'm glad you're there. Welcome.
Thanks. I don't know if you guys have met Jake Proctor. He just became the interim. Not exactly sure what his title is, but when Dr. Quorum kind of split her position and she went to a different position, this happened all last week. But he's like operations director for, I've met him, have spent a half a day with him. He's an amazing, if you haven't had an opportunity to meet him, you really need to meet him. He's a very intelligent doctor and he's, knows a lot about operations and he is a tribal member too from Oklahoma. So, but I found him to be brilliant and very energetic and has a lot to offer the tribe. So.
Appreciate that. Any other thing? Well, appreciate you coming in and meeting and greeting. Very much. Ryan Dollar. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glenn, you got a couple issues.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During the chairman's meeting yesterday, we had a discussion about some food sovereignty issues. And one of the topics that came up was supporting these programs that provide food to our people. And so we came upon an opportunity yesterday that was brought to our attention. There is a food truck, a box truck that Property and Supply put out for bid. There were other tribal departments that could not or wasn't able to utilize it. So at this time, I think it's, for the benefit of our people, I would like to just see the tribes donate that food truck to this program. So I would make the motion that we do donate that food truck to the Essential Eats program. Yeah, so.
Motion by Len to donate the box truck to the Essential Eats distributors. Second by Tom. All in favor? Go ahead, Danielle.
Essential Eats, they provide food to NARS, to the Warming Center, to Boys and Girls Club, and down to agency. And so they've had some transportation issues. Everything moves by car right now, and she's been turning away food, and this really helps provide more food to the reservation and to the programs that take care of our people and our children. This gives the Kalispell location pickup. She can actually get that and get that here to the reservation. So some additional food.
She gets donations from like Walmart and Costco. I don't know. Yeah.
Walmart, Costco, McDonald's is a pickup, and Chick-fil-A now, and yeah, all kinds of food that's coming in.
Did she come in? The only thing I'm concerned about is the liability of that condition of that vehicle, and if something was to happen, like brakes and all of that. So is she signing off that she's accepting that as is and
Yeah, if she doesn't,
And
we
it's a
won't
donation.
deliver it. It's to her as is and completely away
do we
from
have
us.
the documentation signed off on that?
Yeah,
That's the way all of them are when you buy them from the auction or with the silent bid.
all in favor? Yeah. Greg and James.
Yes.
So we have 2, 4, 6, 4, and Carol abstains and Martin is out of the room. You got a truck? Had a second issue for this morning, Glenn? I see Mary Rose is here. Good morning.
Esquexpecia. I am before you today to ask permission for change of duty station on April 23rd, 2026 to do our annual CSKT Earth Day highway cleanup for Pablo area, which is mile marker 50 to 52, and the Elmo area, which is mile marker 76 to 77, with supervisor approval, of course.
Motion by Lynn to approve the change of duty with supervisor approval for the highway cleanups, Pablo and Elmo on April 23rd. Second by Danielle. All in favor? We're unanimous.
And I
Awesome.
wanted to give a little heads up. Our highway cleanup is again from 9 to 1. We'll be doing lunch at Quicksilver with Chef Porky. And at 1 o'clock, we'll move over to SKC and Nakusum will come and drum. And then we're going to do a tree planting for Josh Resno. I believe most of you know him. He did quite a bit of work in the community as well as at SKC. So he recently had passed, so we want to do a tree honoring for him.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
You guys all
you.
have a good day.
So we're a little ahead. Is John available? I know he was around earlier.
To bring up, so yesterday, tribal health staff, reached out to us and was asking about the status of the, Mission Dental Building. If you guys can recall, it was a few months back, a few of us here on council, met over there. And at that time, we all agreed we were gonna purchase the building. And if I recall, Joe identified a funding source to use to purchase the building to move forward. And so was there a council, did we take action to move forward with that? No?
I don't believe I've seen anything on it, and I wasn't on the tour, so go, Tom.
I think we did permission to
Negotiate?
negotiate just to see and then do the field trip, and that was it.
Okay.
Check on the status.
Well, I would, go ahead, Martin.
This is for the MAP program. There were serious concerns about the longevity of that program, the longevity of the program coordinator. Tribal Health isn't doing a very good job of managing their buildings as it is. If they want a building, they can rehab the Jarlis Decker building and get into that building. It sits idle and it's just deteriorating. And maybe John could speak to that about, should we tear it down and just rebuild it? Like, why do we have properties that are just sitting as storage when we need office space? And that's one of Tribal Health's biggest concerns.
Tom?
Yeah, I remember that stimulated some conversation about existing buildings in St. Ignatius, and I brought up the old Head Start building because Head Start doesn't use it very often. I think half the building's vacant. I don't know, but Head Start said they were going to hang on to it, but to me, it's like, oh, I don't know. It looked like there was some other space available for purchase. Anyway. The old Head Start building, the white building down by the creek.
Commodities.
It used to be commodities. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, regardless, this is still, commercial property. And I think it's property that, that's the types of properties that we need to try to acquire regardless who uses it. But if tribal health has the money, has the funding to purchase it, I want us to move forward. I would make the motion to show interest in purchasing that Mission Dental building. Just to show interest.
Got a motion to show interest on the Mission Dental building, and we had a tour before. People have talked about it. Is there any second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
James,
I will second it.
motion by Len, second by James to show interest in the Mission building, dental building. All in favor? Got Len. I got Greg and James. See, there's all kinds of thumbs going up over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, all against. 3, 4, 5. 5 against. So I got Danielle and then Carol.
I would just like more information from tribal health before making a decision on this, so.
Carol?
Also, the condition of that building needs to have a little more look at. I mean, we can't, I mean, I like the location and everything, but like Tom said, we've got buildings that are just sitting there. We need to start utilizing those before they fall down around us. So let's look at our options first.
And we can check in the status of what Joe has looked at with that building. So he was involved and we can do that. Martin?
I'm against it for various reasons, but the fact that we have we just talked about doing something without a director being there or a department head being there, and Joe's on his way out. Joe is short timing it. Hope that's not slander. I don't care if it is, but he is. I'll double down on it. Maybe I'll get impeached. But really, why are we buying buildings that we can't handle? We have a building in Polson that's a great example of tribal health buying a building in haste and us being the catalyst behind it. And there it sits. And so we shouldn't be in the business of making decisions based on 3 people, 4 people going down and looking at a building. It's dangerous.
Thank you, Martin. Oh,
Yeah, I just, I do have some concerns over what Martin just said. I mean, I'd like to have the new director, steer the ship or make some recommendation, whoever that might be. But my understanding is they're still pursuing the Logan Health Building in Polson. So, I mean, what the heck? And they're trying to populate the Anchor Wave facility with a lot of space, and there's a lot of space there. I don't know. I find it troubling. I think the proposal initially was to use the opioid funding, and I don't think that can be used for construction or purchasing. It's basically services. So I think that was, because it's first square was utilizing the opioid settlement fund, so that couldn't happen. So I'm not sure. Again, I don't necessarily want to spend, third party funding on this particular. I'd rather see it all weighted out, so I could see a decision matrix where let's define our most urgent needs. Let's go at that hierarchy of needs and let's assess that and use the funding for those. And I haven't seen that, so I don't know. And I appreciate the sincerity of the professionals that we're talking about the need there, but I haven't seen the data or the information for me to do it. And that would be even for moving into an existing tribal facility. I'm not sure what's going on. Thank you.
I got Martin and then Lynn.
And I believe we asked for an inventory of facility buildings and things like that from Joe, and I don't think we ever got that. That was back in the Logan Health building. You know, why do you really need this space? Show us what you got, show us what you lack. Let's work on it. You know, if we're looking at anything, it should be the physical fitness that's on the third floor in Polson, where if you have someone who's disabled or mobility impaired on the third floor and there's a fire or a fire drill on the first floor, they gotta go down 3 flights of stairs. There's some planning for you.
Go ahead, Len.
Mr. Chairman, I think we probably should check the past minutes too, because I know we had a discussion about this and many on council at that time were agreeing to move forward with the purchase of the building. And as for utilizing property or not utilizing property that we purchased, this is no different than purchasing all the lands. And I'll give you a good example. These ranches, these 3 big ranches that we purchased that we have nobody there. We have none of our tribal membership there, and we're not managing them. And but it's all about getting as much property as we can under tribal ownership. That is the best interest of the tribes, however we use the property. So it's just I'm still going to continue to have this discussion because I think that particular program needs office space, and that's ideal commercial property that we can utilize.
Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I understood the motion to be a show of interest, not a commitment to purchase. And voted for it because it was in showing interest, it preserves that option. The decision to purchase would come after we had additional information, both from the department as well as about the facilities.
Thank you, Greg. Carol?
Is it okay to pull up the motion that everybody seems to be talking about? Because there could be, or I can't quite remember. So if we could bring it up, that would be good.
The motion made this morning?
No, I know what happened this morning, Mike. I'm thinking about
Well,
what everybody says. There's possibly a motion on the floor. I just don't
yeah,
remember.
well, that's what Len just said, that we need to do the research to see
Yeah.
if there's a
We need to-
motion.
I'm not trying to be
I'm not aware of it.
It might have been at a health committee meeting that we told them to look into it. You know, I don't think this was a council action. I think, yes, we're supportive of, you know, these opioid harm reduction programs and all these things. But again, it's, you know, we've asked Joe for a lot of things and we haven't got it. So thus the remark on the short timer. Triple down.
But if Len's right and there was a motion, we'll look to discover it. Tom?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm in full support of what Len said, that we need to acquire as much of our land back as possible. And especially if there's some funding source that is available that really fits that niche that we need. And you mentioned that with the 3 ag purchases that we recently did. Perfect example of that. But this particular revenue coming to do this one is a different animal, a different beast. And one of the critical things when there's buildings, structures on them is to do our due diligence, and that's the environmental inspection. But it's also having a gentleman like John Nice look at the buildings and tell us, what kind of condition, what kind of investment we have to even utilize the structure that's on the property that we're purchasing. And then it's kind of like we really need to have that day before and day after plan. We talked about that before for council. How are we going to do that? How's it going to fit? How are we going to afford owning it? And what does it need to get fixed up? And where does that money come from? So it's kind of quite a strategic type of a decision process. And I certainly don't see that with this particular property yet. That's my concern. Not that I wouldn't vote for it down the road. It's just at this point in time, it's not there for me. Thank you.
Got a little research to do, and then we'll come back to this issue. But let's move forward with John. He's here. Morning, John.
Morning. I'm here to request approval on task order 313 with SKMM. It's we are removing some carpet in some facilities for sanitary reasons. So number one, Hot Springs Clinic, and then fitness centers in Elmo, Kickenworth, and St. Ignatius, and we're replacing them with vinyl plank and some of that gym flooring, rubber mat flooring in the fitness centers, and then a little landscaping around the Ronan Health Center. Not totally all the way around there. We have the southwest corner, which is gonna match up with a walking path from the supportive housing. So that corner won't be done, and the northeast corner of the Ronan Clinic also will be left unfinished now, as we're gonna redo that with a mammogram trailer park once the Dewar building gets built. And then we have the remodeling of the restroom upstairs in the old complex. We need handicap stalls and the floor is falling apart, so need to get that done. And that's for a total of $327,353. Task order 313.
Any questions? Martin?
Sorry for catching with some strays there, John. Motion.
Motion by Martin to approve task order 313. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. John, I know that Dr. Sam, the fitness person, has requested that there would be a crosswalk light apparatus installed from the tribal health building over to the playground. But it's kind of excavated right now, I guess. Is that need to be, if there's underground wiring, is that something that you should consider before you do the landscaping? Because I'm certain the power has to come from tribal health building.
Say that again. What is she looking for?
Well, the playground, the push play donation playground is just south of the
Correct.
parking lot.
Okay, I gotcha.
So she wanted a designated crosswalk for the toddlers coming from the health building because it's a primarily a children's clinic, and where they could safely cross that street, because the travel will just go up on that street as the supportive living facility gets used, and there's more of the landscape gets populated with other things. So she's asked for that to get done now. And so I was just wondering if that would be something you'd want to lay first before you did the landscaping, because I'm assuming it has to come somewhere from that building.
There is a transformer down there. The planning on the supportive housing was terrible, just gonna be honest. We got no infrastructure in the ground other than water. We should have transformers and underground power and fiber, and we're working on the fiber right now. I mean, we should have looked at that as a subdivision, because basically that's what it is, but it wasn't done that way when the supportive housing was put in, and we're trying to correct that right now. Yeah, we talked to Sam about lights and all that stuff. We don't want overhead, power poles and stuff. We'd like to make it look modern. And so that's on the table too. There's a lot of stuff in progress with that. We have the second circle possibly coming up, and hopefully we can get that start out on the right foot there. I think we have a meeting on Wednesday, April Fool's Day. How about that? But we're gonna try and get that one started right and correct a few things along the way.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you got a list, because that's what I worry about. Is I saw the pavement got tore up to do the storm drain sewer or line, whatever it is. Just want to see more of that pre-work done. So
Yeah.
you're on the same page as me. Okay, thank you.
Martin?
Didn't we ask for, like, after we found out that the wastewater wasn't there, a site plan for the entire area? Wasn't that gonna be part of whoever's doing the engineering there. Didn't we ask for that?
Yeah,
Maybe a change order?
housing got MMW to do it, the last the site plan. I don't know, it's just, I wasn't involved on it.
That didn't include the electrical and all that infrastructure
No,
as far as where that.
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, it's just like when the assistant, well, the living center was getting, I asked Sid and Ms. Cahoon or Perez, where's your storm drain go? They didn't know. And they're building a facility there. And we should have a storm drain plan. It's, you know, it's law. But it's just gonna go in the bar pit.
Is this something that we need to do a change order to add more to a contract for engineering to figure out like a layout for that entire?
yeah, before we build anything else, we do need to get some of that infrastructure in the ground. I mean, you know, usually on a subdivision, you might spend, depending on the size of it, you might spend 9 months to a year just on your underground work. You know, connecting with the city and whatnot. And anyhow, we kind of got behind the ball. Sid and I got pulled into it about the time they had the footers in for the supportive housing. So, I mean, we had no idea until then. So,
Greg, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the work here that needs to be done, but I'm just curious on a couple points. I might have missed something. On the agenda request form, it says this is not a part of the annual department work plan, but still we're looking at a 300 and some $1,000 project here. I'm just curious, where is the funding coming from and why is it not a part of the annual work plan?
it actually is. This is coming from M&I and third party. The only thing that isn't is the bathroom on the annual work plan. That's kind of popped up as an emergency, but that comes from deferred maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
I got a motion by Martin to approve task order 313. Do I have a second? Second by Carol. All in favor? We're unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. We'll take a break.
No, we have David and John Wheeler on really quick.
Oh, okay. We can do David and John before we take the break. Morning, fellows.
Good morning. So we're here today to seek a resolution to apply for a zero suicide grant. It's a SAMHSA grant for 5 years, $400,000 a year to implement suicide prevention activities for adults 18 and older. And the grant award would come out in September and start work in October. We're looking to use this to supplement some of the current funding we have under several other IHS grants and some DPHHS grants for suicide prevention.
Questions? Go ahead, Danielle.
Maybe I'm confused, but it seems like the grant that used to fund Reason to Live Native, which was a suicide prevention program, that one didn't renew. And then I think we picked up that with tribal dollars. And will this grant, I guess, take care of that so we don't have to use tribal dollars for that fund or for that programming anymore. Is that how this is gonna work?
Yeah, so the Garrett Lee Smith that we did not receive the award in 2024 was for youth. This is the component for 18 and older for adults. And when we did not receive the Reason to Live Native grant back in, I think it was June of 2024, we picked up a lot of that with SPIP funding through IHS, which is the Suicide Prevention Intervention Postvention Grant. And then I have some other school-based healthcare grants that are picking up that funding as well. So a lot of those activities actually did get picked up by grant funding.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Motion by Martin to approve the resolution to pursue this grant opportunity. Second by Tom. Any other questions? All in favor? I got unanimous. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for your time today.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
We'll take that break.
And Tribal Council, today we have, I'd like to introduce John Schmidt. He's a new Missoula District Administrator. Is that correct? He took the place of Bob Bozen, and I'll let him take it from here.
Yeah, good morning. Like Scott said, I was here, I guess, been a couple months ago now. I came with Director Dorrington. And at the time I was acting as the district administrator, and since then it's been made official. So I am the new district administrator. So I did want to take the opportunity, as long as we were on the agenda, to just come down and say hi again. And
congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Just a couple of things. So after our last meeting, I did send a follow-up. Hopefully most of you received that. We sent it via mail, and I think we tried to send it via email also. So hopefully you received that. Mostly just as an opportunity to say, you know, here's what we heard and here's what we know. So happy to answer any questions about any of that while I'm here. But really also with me here today are Ellen and Beth. They're the alternative contracting project managers responsible for the work on Highway 93, and they're here to give you an update as well. So on what's going on down there. So happy to answer any questions. We also have behind me Joel Boucher and Matt Straub. They also work for the district in project development and alternative contracting. So we have lots of staff here to answer questions and give updates for anything that you're interested in.
Welcome, everybody.
Good morning. My name is Beth Kappas, and maybe I'll get going with a Post Creek update if that sounds good. So again, we're working on, about a 2-mile section of 93 in the Post Creek area, and it includes reconstruction of that bridge, kind of right there by Hunt's Timber. So right now we're continuing on our on-site geotechnical investigation efforts. I'm sure you've seen equipment on site there. At this point, we've finished installation of some wells and also our borings to take soil samples. We'll be moving on to construct the actual test drilled shafts, which is our main effort with this early work. You'll see more equipment move to the site probably starting early next week. And then installation of those drilled shafts will follow. And so again, our big goal here is to install these test drilled shafts and load them to get more information for use in design for the final bridge. So, a couple more weeks of on-site work for now. And then again, kind of supporting where we're headed with the main reconstruction project, which is scheduled to start later this fall. I think when it comes to just where we're at with project development on the road and bridge reconstruction project, we're kind of in the late stages of pre-construction here. We intend to finalize design for the roadway plans by like late May, early June. So final details for those improvements coming together here soon. We're also doing a lot of right-of-way coordination right now. We have a number of agents on the project, and they've been doing a ton of landowner outreach and landowner discussions just here recently. So there's been lots of just outreach on the project in general on that front lately. We're also, so we're going to construct the load or the drilled shafts now. We're not going to actually do the load test till later this summer. That'll occur in like late July, early August. That'll be a much smaller effort and not as much equipment on site. So like this next week, we'll be back under lane closure and you'll see a lot of stuff on site. The actual load test itself later this summer will be a lot smaller operation, but again, that information will be used to finalize our bridge design plans, which are scheduled to be complete by the end of August once we get that information from the test. We are also working on developing our environmental permit applications, which we intend to submit to various resource agencies this month here relatively soon. That's definitely a critical path item for our schedule moving ahead. And so assuming we get through permitting, right-of-way acquisition, and then finalizing our bridge design based on our current investigation efforts, we do intend to start construction this September. We'll get working on the bridge first over the winter. Construction will last through the 2027 season with some work occurring in 2028. So that's kind of where we're at, big picture, if you guys have any questions.
Any questions? I know we've talked about this bridge several times. Doesn't look like we have any questions.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Ellen.
Good morning. I'm Ellen Hen. Excuse me. So the construction this fall would be starting this September, is that correct?
That's definitely our goal and our target, but that is, highly dependent on where we end up with right-of-way acquisition and permitting. So that date could push out, but that's what we're hoping for, what we're planning on at this point.
Okay, and then that would start some traffic one way, like we had seen during the drilling. Is that how the way that's planned is traffic lights and one lane traffic each way?
Yeah, great question. It'll look different than the current traffic control setup. We are planning to construct a 2-lane detour that is just offset of the existing alignment. So that will be a temporary facility that manages traffic or allows traffic to pass during construction while we work on the new bridge. The new bridge will essentially be in the same spot as the existing structure. So hopefully we have a little better traffic flow during the main reconstruction effort, but I don't know if you wanted to add on that, John.
No, that's very accurate. So there'll be some intermittent start and stops, even with the 2-lane detour just to get things in and out of the construction site, but we won't be managing it as a single lane with signals. It'll look just like the highway, only it'll zigzag around the new bridge till it's built.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just haven't had the time to spend with Whisper and some of the staff on this particular topic because I'm just curious how you mitigate wildlife movement during construction.
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have a number of timing restrictions planned for inclusion in our construction contract that really try to limit our impacts and on-site work when we believe that there is a lot of wildlife activity. Like, for example, night work isn't allowed. We don't do clearing during like the nesting season. So really we're trying to manage wildlife accommodations through timing and scheduling to minimize our impacts during construction, if that kind of makes sense.
It certainly does. That would be, for grizzly bear movement, not having any activity at night would be pretty critical to that. But then again, I'm not sure with all the construction items there, if there's like a barrier that they'd have a hard time getting through. If there's no nighttime activity, but is there snow fencing? Is there equipment? Is there another barrier that might be a problem for for wildlife movement? I mean, do you move equipment? Do you open up space? Do you do things like that?
I'd say that the barriers will be a little more probably during construction, just because of the nature of the construction, right? Just the noise and stuff. As soon as the detour is built, so the detour is designed to have the same opening essentially as the existing bridge that's there. So there's no real accommodation for underpass or overpass during construction. Really, it's the timing restrictions. It'll for construction of the new bridge, right? There'll be several cranes and lifts and all kinds of stuff staged around, and they're not real conducive for moving in and out. Hopefully we're not too much of an impact during construction, but we'll definitely going to try and reduce it with the timing restrictions.
It's great not to have any activity at night. It's like, I'm a Post Creekite, at a ranch, just north of upstream from the Highway 93. My observation of grizzly bears is they go over the highway. They don't go underneath the existing bridge. So that when I say is there a barrier, it would be big equipment parked in the way, that kind of thing at night, where you maybe just open up hey, this is the most likely path traveled by wildlife, and hey, there's a deer path. Let's just open up here so it can easily go through at night. That's really the question.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we can talk to the contractor about just not parking.
Yeah, exactly.
Randomly all over the place. Usually they don't, because they'll do fueling and that kind of stuff at night, and usually that'll be backed up away from specifically the water bodies and the wetlands, right? Because we don't want fuel spills. So we'll talk to them about where they're staging at night, in addition to just not working at night, for sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
And we also, I guess, in addition to, grizzly bear and bird considerations, we also have in-stream work windows to really minimize our impact on aquatic species. So there's a number of things we're trying to do to really reduce the impact of our big construction presence out there, I guess, if that's at all helpful.
I just wanted to bring up my biggest concern is keeping the speed limit during construction at a reasonable speed, so that you aren't driving 35 miles an hour for 3 miles and expecting people to drive that. And then really only working in a certain area, or like what I'd like to see is a reduced speed limit during construction in a certain area. And then when there's actually work going on, to limit that to a lower speed that's safe for the workers and everybody. But my fear is that if you reduce the speed too far for too long and there's nothing going on, then people don't drive the speed limit. They get used to driving, like not following the speed limits, and then it's not enforced, and things go wrong. So I'd like a lot of attention to controlling the hours of work and the actual speed limits, and not having signs that people ignore during the construction. That's my ask, is to pay very much attention to the not having signs that people will ignore in keeping things safe.
Go ahead, Bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Scott, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm a violator of that all the time, especially on the interstate highway systems. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like 5 miles out. Reduce your speed up for the construction. So yeah, it just leads to people ignoring it. It's a true safety issue.
We don't want to accommodate the contractor by letting them leave signs up that extend the speed limit, or like lower the speed limit officially, but no, it's not enforced. That's my biggest pet peeve.
Any other question? I think you can go, Ellen.
Okay, thank you. So I'm working on the Eagle Pass Trail section and the wildlife overpass. As we spoke last week, last time I was here, we had made that determination for the steel structure for the overpass, and we were talking a little bit about what the wildlife fencing could look like. We've been working with the biologist, and the project team has come to a determination that we'll just use that standard 8-foot wildlife fencing with the mesh across the full overpass to ensure that we are maintaining that view shed for drivers as they look towards the Mission Mountains. Between the two fencing types, there was no big difference for the wildlife if they were walking through, so we thought it would make the most sense and the most cost effective to use that standard fence that you'll see through the rest of the project corridor, especially on our two projects with the fencing running the full length. We're continuing to work with the environmental team and staff. We're working through final wetland impacts, making sure that we're minimizing any of those impacts into the wetlands right around the Nine Pipes Lodge area, and working through our biological accommodations and our biological opinion that will be sent to the service in the coming months as we work towards the NEPA process for environmental. So that's kind of our big push right now, is getting those final details on wildlife fencing, turtle fencing, and the final details for that wildlife structure. We have gone through our first estimate reconciliation. So we worked with our independent cost estimators and the contractors and have gotten our first look at the cost. We're still kind of working through what the finals numbers looks like and making sure we're all comparing the same numbers. It's a little bit higher than the original estimate. So we're starting to work through what that means for the project and what the options are. So next time we come back, we'll have a better idea of what those impacts could be or may be with that project estimate. We did receive our alignment and grade plan set in the last month, and that's kind of what we've been working towards for this cost reconciliation. All those comments have been incorporated and are being put back into the next phase of the plans, which should be coming in June, which will be our final plan set as we head into that construction package and into the grant timeline for making sure that we secure the WCPP grant. We're still looking on track for that grant in July. Our big considerations are making sure that the environmental documentation is fully complete. Ahead of the grant documentation, we'll have permits falling after that for formal permits of what our final impacts are. But that EDOC is our big one. We are working with the cultural committees and we are working through the cultural resource evaluation. We're still in the process of getting that document and they're working on the review of that. So we are working with the CSKT staff as well as like the biological staff to make sure that everything is being considered as we keep moving through these steps. And I think that was all my notes. Any questions on the wildlife overpass?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good update, Ellen. Just one follow-up question because Scott brought this up and I thought about more and more, and it sounds like the fencing has kind of been. But anytime that there's hard surface or retaining walls or concrete work, you know, as far as related to the overpass, wildlife overpass, if there could be, you know, some use of wildlife stamps or figurines or whatever, you know, I mean, it just adds value to it as far as a message for the traveling public that what is this, you know, and if you do something there that's fantastic. Yeah, I really paid attention to that comment, and when I was noticing that, especially on a scenic highway, like Highway 93 is north, I was thinking about that on the interstate. I just drove down to Arcadia, California last week, and I was paying attention to all the artwork and scenic highways and doing the corridor there, you know, going from the Dalles into Portland on the interstate there along the Columbia, and looking at how they have that built environment for a scenic highway. And, you know, but you take really that artistic value for the work that you're doing and what you're building. Is there opportunity to have that extra value to it? And it's fantastic when they do. I noticed the one overpass in the Dalles there has got the fish on it, you know, and and they did it really well because it changes in the light different times of the day. And so I really started thinking about that. And then the work they do on the concrete work when you get into the where all the waterfalls are, you know, along the interstate there. It's really fantastic to see that. And it really takes pride in your work. And so, you know, it's everlasting, and it sends a multitude of messages for the traveling public our sincerity to trying to move wildlife over a tremendous barrier as far as a highway goes. So if there's any consideration for that, please do. Thank you.
Yeah, and we definitely will consider that with the steel arch and the beveled ends. I think there's a lot less just flat concrete work that we'll be seeing. It really will look a little more natural in the landscape with the grasses going up. So I think there may not be as much just flat concrete, but we'll definitely be looking. There's going to be like an edge around the steel structure that may have some opportunity. And then inside we have Jersey rail. So I don't know if there's much opportunity there, but the team is definitely considering what the views are from the road and coming up to it as they continue through the design to make sure that it's not a eyesore on the public, because it is a big structure that's going to be going into this environment.
If there is anything that is kind of cost prohibitive, like it doesn't make sense cost wise, but the tribe, it would be in the best interest of the tribe. We can bring it up to our transportation planning committee and appropriate funds for that, something like that, in to go with this project. I just to keep in mind, if you want to keep those opportunities at our disposal, I guess I keep them up for us to make those decisions.
Other question? Keep our animals safe.
I guess maybe just noting a couple of other aesthetic features that are currently incorporated in the project plan out there. We will be installing like eco block walls beneath the wildlife jump outs, similar to the rest of the corridor. So it kind of looks like stone rather than like the treated timbers that you see a lot of in other locations. We'll be coating the sign backs and the rails throughout both projects as well, similar to what we've done on past projects. So they have like a much more like natural color scheme. And just kind of like, again, match the rest of the corridor. On the Post Creek project, we're planning a parabolic haunch on the steel girders for that bridge. So what that means is it just has like nice curved lines for the profile of those main members that support the roadway. So I would say it's definitely a consideration, and we continue to try to incorporate that as much as we can, depending on kind of the opportunity, as Ellen and Scott were discussing.
Any other questions? What else, John?
That's really it. Like I said, since I was official as the district administrator, just really wanted to take the chance to come down and say hi again officially. As always, welcome to reach out to myself. I can leave some business cards if you want, or Joan Radine does a great job of keeping track of me also. So she's more than willing to track me down if you have her contact information also. And look forward to all the great communication and stuff that you guys had moving that forward from where it was with Bob and just continuing it on. So we'll plan on coming back and providing updates as much as possible. And yeah, I mean, and we can get back on the agenda and come down and talk about, more project updates, what's going on with the rest of the system. Not just 93 here. We give it a lot of attention, but there's a lot of other work that's going on. So we'll get on the agenda probably. I'll talk to Joan. We'll try and get on the agenda maybe end of May, June, and come down and just give more project updates and what's going on, if that sounds good with you guys.
Always look forward to Bob showing up, and it'll be a pleasure having you come often. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, as a new Bob, I expect you to be here a lot. I appreciate it. Appreciate your conversations and that you're here. I certainly do, because we all drive the highways every day, and you got a tough job ahead, and it's hard work, and it's a big responsibility. So I mean, thank you for stepping up and doing the job. I'm gonna bring this up because I'm gonna bring it up every time
Mhm.
until someone tells me why we can't do it. And that's the northbound traffic coming into Arlie. And why we can't route out some speed bumps there or route out some speed strips or whatever you call it, rumble strips. Just so it grabs their attention and they slow down to 35 miles an hour before they hit that first corner right there into town. I just don't know why we don't do that because, you know, I mean, even myself, I catch myself speeding at times and I know better. And, but it's just that for me, when I hit those rumble strips, like there's an oncoming intersection on highway, say on the back road coming into Round View, they catch you. I mean, they really do. They grab your attention, just like we put them in, so you don't drive over the center line or you don't drive off the shoulder.
Sure.
But so I don't know why. I can see where you wouldn't want bumps or humps because then it's a problem for snow plowing. But you know, the routed out strips seem to be pretty good. So
Okay.
I'm bringing it up again. Until you tell me you can't do it, I'll bring it up every time.
Fair
Thank you.
enough. Yeah, fair enough. That's a new one for me. I don't remember hearing it before, so I'll bring it back on the list and we'll look at it and see what the options are.
Len, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and member of the council, and thank you for taking the time to come visit with us. So our past discussions with MDOT where we had a couple concerns along the highway and and a few of them we've been bringing up continuously. One of those is Elmo. Okay, we still have the problem of trying to slow people down going through Elmo. We have 2 crosswalks in Elmo. And we've requested to have signs with lights to show that there is a crosswalk there. As we're getting into the summer months, you know, a lot of kids use those to get to the lake. And so I just wanted to remind you, if we could keep that on your project list, we would really appreciate it if we can get some crosswalk lights installed at those 2 locations.
Chairman, Councilman. Yeah, so definitely. So we did talk about that one when I was here with the director. And it's on our, that was something that came out of our corridor study that we did through all the way from Polson to Summers, were those crosswalks. And we just went through and evaluated all the projects that we were going to start nominating out of that corridor study. And that's one of the top priorities for the district is the crosswalks at Elmo, the ADA and the crosswalks at Elmo. So that is a project. We've got it. We're nominating it. We're working on it. Doesn't happen super quickly, but it's on our list, top of our list. And there is something coming there, next 2 to 3 years, probably. Yeah.
Carol, go ahead.
Yeah, what is your last name, John?
Schmidt,
Oh, okay.
SCHMIDT.
I had an instructor in college named John Schmidt.
It's I find that it's more common than I guess not necessarily than I'd like it to be, but there's a lot of me out there. So be careful. Don't just Google it. You never know who you'll end up talking to.
Well, thank you for the updates and we look forward to the actual production.
Have a great day.
Is that Scott and Dan next, huh? I think we can go ahead.
Good morning. The next thing on our agenda is the Lake County Transportation Infrastructure Agreement that we had one in place since I think looking back in my records, it was 2006 or 2011 is the earliest I'd seen this type of agreement in place, and a lot of little projects have been specified under this agreement, this type of agreement. This agreement I had brought to council's attention last summer that this agreement was going to expire, and they decided to postpone making any to further extension of this agreement. But this agreement is between the Lake County Roads Department and the Tribal Roads Department mainly, and it's to perform future facilities projects on Lake County roads. Typically, we'd had this agreement in place for a 5-year term, and then extended it for another 5 years. Yeah, I think I brought this to council's attention in June of maybe it was 2024. But this agreement doesn't commit the tribe to anything. It just allows further project-specific agreements to be made underneath this agreement.
Scott? Under the past 5-year agreement, how many different projects were done?
We did some right when I started in 2019. We did a Lake County signs project and a guardrail on Lake County roads with that CMGC project that was on when I started in 2019. And that was located on various county roads throughout the reservation. But this agreement I've had our legal department review, and basically we accept the county will accept the technical and professional standards of qualifications of the tribal roads program, and we should, if it falls within our tribal transportation program interests, that we can use our tribal transportation money to conduct certain public transportation infrastructure construction during the repair on behalf of the county. And anything that would be any project specific agreements with that would fall under this agreement would be in our would go through our transportation planning committee and then be in our 5-year plan.
Go ahead, Luke.
Just sitting here when I was reading this morning, so is this ever reciprocated? Does the county ever spend money on tribal roads?
Not that I know of.
But we'll be spending our money on county roads.
Yeah,
So it's kind
and
of
it would be just on specific things that would benefit the tribe more. Like if the county didn't have money to do something that the tribe wanted to do to benefit the tribe, that's when this agreement would come into place.
I think, Mr. Chair, yeah, actually, I can think of, I don't know, may even predated the agreements, but, they contributed to the development of the first scenic turnout on Ravalli Hill. They provided all the gravel. Did that for, hauled it and brought it in for us. They also did the same thing down at the, river honoring site and developing a pad down there for the buses. I can think of those two projects anyway, where they've contributed material and man hours and travel time. But I don't know of any others specifically on roads. Yeah.
It allows the county to do some designs and then if it's in the interest of the tribe or the county can do part of it and then we can take it over and do the construction, or it leaves it open to project specific type things.
It's always an interesting proposition when we're utilizing our resources to help the county commissioners out. But I'm not really aware of any major additions that the tribe would want on different county things. You said guardrails was one thing that you dealt with, and then signage. So I could see signage.
Yeah, and one thing that's on the forefront of, like, on the tentative things that we could do is, remember a few months ago when on Songer Road, they had a chip seal prospect for a road improvement district for the county to do a certain section of road. And some of the adjacent road or adjacent landowners is the tribe. We have the Sundown, we have that home site off of Songer Road. And we have some tribal properties that are adjacent to the Songer Road. And they're asking if we can participate in that road improvement district, which would just be a percentage of, like, the people that live along that road all get signed a petition to the county to get that road chip sealed. And they would split that, the cost, the county would do all the work, and I think all the residents would have to split the oil cost or just the materials cost of that. And since the tribe is part of that, we have no other mechanism to pay for that besides an agreement like this. And then, so if this would pass, then I would come back with another proposal with a project specific agreement for Songer Road for a certain amount of dollar amount to contribute to participating in something like this.
Yeah, this is a contract that is a general contract that opens the door for other specific tasks, basically. Do we have the same sort of thing with Sanders County?
I haven't been aware of anything like that yet, but my plan is to start more communications with them.
And from the legal standpoint, is it basically the same as what it was?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, nothing new language wise, so. I think
Other questions?
one of the council people online, Mr. Chairman, had a question.
Oh, yeah, Greg, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You kind of covered the first part of it. I'm curious as to there's a need evidently for this type of an agreement, yet I don't know that there's anything in place for the other counties that are within the exterior boundaries of the reservation. I'm curious as to why not, and also curious as to how we would go about maintaining consistency and whether or not the agreement might not be with the state as opposed to the county, to create that consistency across the entire reservation. And the other part of my question goes to I see that the tribal council in 24 postponed the action on this agreement. And I'm wondering if the conditions or the reason for that postponing have been met. So I'm curious as to what the background is on this agreement.
Anybody aware of the discussion about postponing? I don't recall.
I think it was at the end of a meeting, and I think it was just not explained very well at that time. And then as far as the other counties, Flathead and Sanders County, and there's not much in Missoula County. But I will look into similar agreements for those as well.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you. I think I was wondering that, I was about ready to say, hey, can we have agreement with the city of Ronan? Because they need help. And we've got a large tribal population in Ronan. Maybe that is as Greg suggested, maybe really this just should be with the state of Montana, because everybody out besides us is a subset of the state of Montana. So if there's a general agreement with the state, maybe we already have one with Highway 93. I don't know.
Yeah, I know when we did, I looked back on the records of when the city streets have gotten onto the NTTFI, that BIA roads inventory. We do have agreements with each of those cities and counties to do work on there. I guess this one is just it's kind of a carryover, but I'm not sure what the differences are between this agreement and the agreement they signed when we took those roads on. So we do have agreements with like the city of Ronan to do work on streets that they allowed to be on, or that we asked to be on the NTTFI.
Other questions? Motion by Tom to approve the agreement. Second by Danielle. All in favor? Lynn? Danielle? Martin? We got 2, 4, 5, 6, 4. Len is opposed and Carol's out of the room. So it passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Now we got legal. Are you looking for executive? We'll go out of regular into executive.
First action item, Mr. Chairman and council members, would be a motion to grant Katie Jones a 90-day sabbatical.
Danielle?
Yeah, I'll make the motion, and then I want to include in there somehow that Dan has the approval to make that decision for sabbaticals for his associates moving forward. Or does that need to be separate? Separate issue? Okay. Well, disregard. We'll-
A motion to grant Katie sabbatical. Second by Tom. All in favor? Got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 against? Were you shaking your head? Len? And Len's against. Motion carries.
Okay, next, Mr. Chairman, council members, will be a motion to grant Chelsea Collin a 90-day sabbatical.
Motion by Carol to grant Chelsea a sabbatical. Second by Martin. All in favor? We've got 7-4 and Len. Len is opposed. Motion carries. Now Danielle.
I don't even know how to word that, but motion for Dan to be able to grant sabbaticals to his staff going forward.
Motion to have the managing attorney handle sabbaticals.
What does the policy say that he has to?
Have to ratify, or the council has to ratify sabbatical requests is what the ordinance. Yeah.
Just remove the council ratification.
Abby, did you get what we were throwing out there? No.
If you'd like, I can bring amendment 2 back and reword the language and council can approve the new version of amendment 2, if that makes it easier.
So I can withdraw that.
Yeah.
Dan will bring it back?
Yeah,
Withdrawn.
I will work on that.
Then
Just a quick comment on there. No disrespect to Katie and Chelsea. I have to answer to our tribal member employees. Okay, I don't agree with certain groups of employees getting different benefits from other employees. When our tribal member employees are burnt out on their job and they have to take time off, they have to use their personal time off or they go leave without pay. I know the hard work that you girls have done for us. You've benefited, you're a huge benefit to our tribe. But I just want you to understand that this is how I feel about this, and it's all about treating everybody equal. Okay, it's one of those things where I cannot tell our tribal member employees that they could take 90 days off with pay, because that can't happen, right? But and once again, I want to thank you for the hard work. You've done phenomenal work for us. But that's how I personally feel about it. And as I mentioned, I got to answer to the membership about, and I can let them know that this is it is a policy, but I don't agree with it.
I just gotta point out that they're attorneys and they're women and they're not girls. And how we address people in the workplace is important. And so apologize for that.
Martin, are you gonna make your motion?
I'd make a motion to send out the what do we call them? Questionnaire,
Straw poll.
straw poll, as corrected as of today, and send it out within the next 2 weeks.
Motion by Martin to move forward with the straw poll within the next 2 weeks, as is. Second by Tom. Discussion? All in favor? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Carol, 6, 7. James, I don't see I got 7-4. Anybody opposed? James, I didn't see your vote.
For the room, he had it in the chat.
Okay. And James is out of the room. So 7-4 and James is out of the room.
So for direction from the council, so on the fact question, I'm not sure if there was consensus on that, but council will like, I could ask Joe and Lawrence to join me, maybe Rob, to provide that update for what council's looking for as far as facts go. We'll let council know I'll be in Missoula giving a presentation at the law school next Tuesday, so I'll be available then. I'm not sure about next Thursday, Jen, if there'd be time in the morning, maybe, if there's council that day. Okay, I can come back in Thursday and see if Joe and Lawrence are available.
I believe Martin's motion's moving forward without facts.
Okay, so don't bring them in. We're good.
I think that's where it was, isn't it?
All right. Okay. Right, that's all I have for legal at this time. Pending any
Thank you,
questions?
Chelsea, Katie, thank you. Break for lunch.
See you guys at 1:15.
Make it 1:30.
Okay,
Dang.
means it's gonna be later than.
Well, we'll come back to order. Okay, welcome, guys. Good to see you.
Can you turn your microphone on?
Like that? All right, we good? I'd just like to thank everyone on the council for allowing us to come in here and share some time. My name is Gabe Kayai. I'm with the Kasunka Community Development Corporation. And to my right over here, we have Mayuk Kayai, Yusta Inius, Ray Nichols, and Richard Pierre. These guys, we're all, these are my board members. We're missing Abigail Lee and Wilbert Michelle Jr. And the reason why we're here today is to discuss like the housing issue that's been going on. And, you know, back in 1998, the KCDC, the Tunuka Community Development Corporation, they united and they became a state certified and they got tribal entity status. And they were able to accomplish getting 10 homes built through sweat equity, USDA grants. They had contributions from the Housing Authority and from Salish County College, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers. And what we're doing is a continuation of their work. We're here to request tribal entity status. We've looked at the ordinance 54A, you know, and looked at all that. But one of the reasons that we decided to get together was because, you know, we looked at the housing situation and we were able to identify some gaps, you know, as far as like the housing situation goes, you know, that and one of our main concerns was that our tribal members that were stuck in the low income rut is that they don't build equity over time. You know, it's just kind of a system where you go in there, you're paying into a unit that you'll never ever get to own, or there's no generational transfer of wealth down to the next generation. You know, for instance, I know people that their parents lived there, you know, and after their parents passed away, then their children were able to move in there. But there wasn't that transfer of wealth down there, you know, whether it be, you know, on the lower end of the people that are paying the lower income rates, you know, just like the multiplication over time of how much money that they would be able to save up and transfer down to their children. And So we decided we started going into a business plan, that identified three different sources of revenue. One of them, which being, would be to become a sub-recipient of the Housing Authority, because Elmo is a part of the demographics that the Housing Authority uses in their equation to get money through the Indian Housing Block Grant and the Indian Community Development Block Grant. One of the other sources that we identified is, a tribal contribution. And one of the main, the key mechanisms that we have in our business plan is called a perpetual housing fund. And using that perpetual housing fund, as far as being able to use the federal dollars with it, there's so many different compliance issues and everything as far as like building units, for example, the Gochi home sites over here, I was talking to the director of Housing Authority and she said that they were able to build those houses for $270,000 to $280,000 and still offer a 50% subsidy on those houses. And, I thought that was a pretty good deal for the tenants of that system, so we applied that into our business model. But where the magic really happens with this business plan and the perpetual housing fund is through tribal contribution and the efforts of getting grants and philanthropy efforts. And as you can see from the handout that I gave you guys, the source of funding, is used to build houses, and through the building of those houses, then we can, the tenants that are planning to move in there will go out and get the loans. We've identified two different types of loans. The HUD 184 is a loan that housing uses, and there's it's a little more accessible to the general tribal membership. And then the other source of funding is the USDA single family guaranteed home grant. Yeah. And through that, that one was a little bit harder to get because you could not be eligible to get any type of grant or any type of loan throughout. Like if you weren't able to go get a loan through a bank, then or if you were able to get a loan from a bank, then you weren't eligible for the USDA grant. So so as you can see, so the if through a tribal contribution or through the philanthropy grant, we would go to build a house, and then an eligible tenant, like say one of the people that went through the SCAHA's home ownership program, they went through and they got all the classes done, and they became they put in their application and got approved to be a borrower. Then we would take that money through the loan, and it'd pay for the house, and then we would take that money and just recycle it right back in to build one more house. And and that can perpetually happen, for X amount of houses that you wanted to build. And that only opens up through the tribal contribution or the philanthropy grants. We researched some of the philanthropy grants, and there are some kind of restrictions in there, but for the most part, the grants that we looked at, they allowed for the a recyclable mechanism to go into the back into a fund. And through our nonprofit status, we would just continuously recycle money back into the Elmo community, the Elmo district, for the Kasunka people of this tribe. Let's see here, what else? You guys have anything to add right now?
Yeah, just a little bit. So our main priority today is to see if we can get tribal entity status granted by council. And if you all have any suggestions or resources to point us towards, and share that with us.
I remember years ago when KCDC was first taken off, it was my understanding that some of those families were building their own homes, right?
Yeah, that's Also, what we wanted to do is we wanted to create our own workforce too, because I'm not sure if you guys still have a GTPA and welfare to work programs. We wanted to be able to go out and find young people that want to go and train.
Yeah.
And come back and work with the contractor that we hire. And also do exactly what my dad did was to have the families work on those homes to help pay for some of the, I guess, it helped put money back in our, I can't remember how it worked, but I remember he did it so it wouldn't cost them as much. It would take some of the percentage off the houses for them.
Because I didn't really completely understand it, but what the little understanding I had was the hours and labor that was put in to building those houses was applied toward the mortgage. So they were the more hours that they worked on the house, they were able to lower that mortgage until they actually had ownership of the home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's how
right. Yeah,
that worked.
I remember that. Yeah.
Sweat equity.
Yeah, sweat equity.
Is that something similar that we're looking at here?
Yes, exactly.
If it's still available, that was a program that was offered through the USDA. And the USDA, they have a lot of different funding opportunities, basically to develop an entire community. That's definitely something that we'll look into to see if that program still operates or to see if there's any kind of renditions based off of that. Good.
I think we want to develop our own kind of workforce to build these homes though versus the sweat equity. So we're kind of
Sweat equity, yeah, that's the term I was looking for.
We personally I kind of wanted to veer away from the sweat equity idea, but I mean if it's an option and it's going to get things done, then
if the resources are there, that's probably
And it helps pay for their salaries and everything too.
Yeah, and that's like one of the main things one of the main goals that we have is that we're willing to, dig into any type of resource that is available, to accomplish a goal. And one of the things that I want to mention is like the system limitations as far as the Elmo district goes, Big Arm, Elmo, Dayton up into Nirata. And it was mentioned in the business plan and you guys might already know about it, but like the systems are not adequate enough to foster, big a community development builds. It's like for instance, the Elmo district, I found out that there's only 3 lots available and then the water and sewer systems need upgrades to handle more capacity. And that goes for the same with Elmo, Dayton and Big Arm, that there either needs to be like some upgrade to the storage capacity, the water pumps are one of the other mechanisms that we have in our business plan has to do with like the deed restrictions. We want to put a cap on the price of these houses so that, so say 20, 30 years down the road that any member of our community, the Kasunka, so that nobody ever gets priced out of a house that down the road. I've seen instances more recently where the houses that are available in our district, are like $125,000 and, just for the price of the house. And then on top of that, like be seeing the pictures of this place and it needs a lot of upgrades and everything, so being able to have a deed restriction on the price of the house, would really keep the houses affordable for now and into the future, for future generations. Yeah.
The gist of our proposal.
Yeah.
Carol?
Well, Mr. Chair, I really think I wish I would have had more time to really take a look at this, but you know how inclusive started? Just like this. It started by few individuals having a vision about bringing the language back. This is somebody taking something that is so personal to all of us as our home, where we we raise our children and eat dinners with family and all of that. So I really see this as a really strong goal for that community. And you guys are taking it upon yourself to accomplish it. I'm wondering, in your plan, does it describe all of the, like the entity, how maybe that's something that legal needs to answer, is how that's gonna all take place? Are you looking at becoming a department or just an entity under, is it
A corporation.
1C3?
501c3.
And you're gonna be incorporated under the tribal, because you don't have to go to the Secretary of State, you can go through the tribal system and do that. Have you done that part of it yet?
If you helped with the one that they did 30 years ago, can you lighten us on what they did to get that status that they had?
Did I sign off on it?
Yeah.
I was probably the secretary of the
Yeah.
council, and all you do is go, and I think it's the secretary or it might be legal department's responsibility, but they have the documentation. And it's so simple, all you do is fill out the documentation and turn it in. And I think at that time it cost $25. And basically then the secretary gets it and signs off on it. And then every year you got to report, just like you would to the Secretary of State, you got to report that this is what your financials, this is what you're doing with your corporation, and it's all above board and it's being audited and all that kind of stuff. And then we give you a certification every year I think it's every year that you get that. And so, yeah, I remember doing that, and I don't know if have you signed off on any of those business? See, I don't.
Treasurer.
Might be a legal thing, might be, what's his name upstairs, Brian. A letter of good standing is what you get from that.
Okay. From legal?
Yeah, Jen, you know, yeah, Jen, just get with Jen and she can walk you through it or get you to somebody in legal. It doesn't take legal assistance or anything. You just need to understand what you're signing and stuff.
And then we just ask the secretary to sign.
Yeah. I don't know, is KCDC still in, no, I thought they were, yeah.
They weren't formally dissolved back in the day. I tried to get the files from over there, but they were pretty busy. Because we were planning on just going in there and, you know, reactivating what they did back then, but it seemed like it was just a heck of a process. So we just, you know, went our
I think there
way.
was financial issues too. It's probably best to do your own.
Separate,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we did, we filed with the Montana Secretary of State with that, Christy Jacobson to
Yeah.
become a public nonprofit corporation. And we're pending 501c3. There's just some small minor internal amendments that we have to make to, and we're about 90% done with our application to get filed for the 501c3.
Good. I went online for my business and just kind of took some stuff out of there and copied it and got it all set up.
You're basically registering under 54A as a tribally owned
Yes.
nonprofit corporation. And it's just signed off on by the secretary of the council. That's all.
Okay.
So
Simple
it's
enough.
just
Okay,
paperwork.
We've gone through we've been doing the tribal preference. I talked with, I don't want to name drop, but I was informed that we need to do a tribal preference application. So we have that all done. It just needs to be signed or notarized and submitted. I can't think of anything else that's where we're at. As far as, so like Richard was saying, you know, we just wanted to come in here and present ourselves, present our business plan, what we're planning on doing, and work towards becoming a tribal entity, getting that tribal charter and stuff.
Good, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gabe et al., great work. Appreciate you coming in and what you're trying to do. And housing is such a need, you know, it's incredible. It's absolutely, especially when you talk about, you know, real estate up in your neighborhood and, you know, around the lake. And so the Tri-Cities area, I support, you know, this action as much as I can. But the one thing is, as I read everything, is that for me to look at it, and I don't know as far as the legal department looks at it, it has to be compliant with our tribal constitution and bylaws. So my recommendation to you would be is to focus on the service area.
The Elmo district?
Yeah, in everything that you say
Yeah.
and do, because we can't discriminate between anybody. As far as if they're a member of the tribe, they're a member of the tribe.
And that's just as far as being the tribal entity status, right?
Well, anything that we condone or approve here has to be compliant with that. Every tribal member has to have equal opportunity to everything that we endorse and do. That's what the Constitution states.
Okay.
So what you'd want to do is make sure it's your service area that you're after and the
Yeah.
people living in that service area. Well, that's compliant. But the moment you start saying, you know, one like Kasanka over Kilespe or something like that's where you could get into potential trouble. Because you're going to be, as a board, determining, you know, the criteria of who you're going to service and do that. So that takes care of that. You can do it. It's just that when I read through it, and you have conflicting, it does kind of, in the articles of incorporation, provides more description, but in your beginning part would raise red flags as far as equal opportunity for our membership. So I think I would just tweak that. That's my suggestion. I don't know if we have to have legal review. I assume we do.
Yeah, we pretty much were aware of that. We talked about it. We wondered if you guys had something to say about it.
Yeah.
But we understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's that Tri-City area, you know, that's what you're after. And it's such a terrible crunch. It's just, how we provide housing, how we do it. And then I really like that idea of trying to, you know, when someone exits, you keep the value down so it's affordable. So it pays it forward, you know, through different multiple ownerships. And that is really important.
Especially when you're not, you know, having to deal with the cost of land appreciation or land depreciation, you know, because that's probably makes up more than 75% of the cost of a house and land, you know. So if you can freeze that aspect, that one variant in the equation, then, you know, that makes homes more affordable for future generations, for present and future. Yeah, and we were what we're talking about as far as what you were saying, you know, as you know, like when I take a look at self-determination, and you know, I used to think of self-determination as a whole, you know, like the tribe in general, but you know, over the you know, and anyways, you know, self-determination, you know, like we're trying to become self-determined for the Elmo district, you know, and I can speak on, you know, the inequalities that the Elmo district has gotten throughout, you know, the course of, you know, my life and through my parents' life, you know, and, you know, speaking with some of the elders, you know, this is a pretty sensitive topic, you know, that it's been 25 plus years since the last KCDC was able to get houses in Elmo. And before that, there was 25 years before houses got put in Elmo. So within the span of 50 plus years, we've gotten 2 groups of homes in Elmo, you know, so this is a pretty sensitive topic when you talk with your elders about it and stuff like that, you know. So yeah, we did let our emotion get involved, you know, because we're trying to do the betterment. We're trying to become self-determined and self-sufficient in the matter of the Kasunka people, you know. So that's why we put that in there. But I understand what you're saying, Tom, as far as like keeping it general,
There's multiple ways to skin a cat. So I'm just
especially if you know, we're starting to talk about, you know, tribal contribution. You know, I understand that, you know, the tribal contribution, you know, can't discriminate against any one person or other, you know, just for the fact that there is a demand for housing on the reservation, whether or not, you know, past directors from the housing authority would say, why would we build houses in Elmo? There's no demand out there. Nobody wants to live on Elmo. You know, well, I studied a supply and demand graphs for the past year, you know, and if there's no a supply, you know, how's there a demand? You know, that demand comes from people, you know, that are willing to live in the community, you know. So we'll take that into consideration, and we'll go back and we'll take a look at the articles of incorporation and the bylaws and everything, and we'll get it most conforming to, you know, the general tribal population as we can, especially on the tribal entity status side of things. But as on the 501c3 side of things, you know, I think we can I'm kind of go our own route that way, right?
I think you can. I got the same problem in Hot Springs.
Say it again?
I got the same problem in Hot Springs.
Yeah,
I think the last house that was built in Hot Springs was before I was born,
yeah.
and I'm old. On the lines that Tom's talking, I see you want to be a subrecipient of SNK housing. You'll fall under a lot of federal regs with that as well, that you'll have to be aware of.
A lot of
Restricted
compliant.
funds, yeah.
Yeah.
And so be careful there as well.
That's where the segregated bank accounts come into play. You know, we realize that, you know, getting federal dollars, you know, there's certain strings that are attached with what you can and can't do with that, you know, so that's why we realized that the best way to do that is kind of similar to what Housing Authority already does with the 50%, what do they call that?
Is it ICDBG?
No, the 50%, that word? Is that basically the 50% off houses, you know, yeah, subsidy, there it is. But yeah, we're well aware of the compliance issues that come with federal money. We haven't really gotten into the depth of like what the compliance regulations are on it, but you know, that'll come down the road. You know, these are just ideas of possible funding sources that we would like to, you know, at least get our hands into, you know, make Elmo.
Well, I understand that.
Develop.
All about resources. Greg, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. So to begin with, I could talk for the next 3 or 4 hours about why this is such a great idea, right? But rather than go down that path, you already know it's a good idea, and what you're trying to do here, I think, is admirable. It's positive on so many fronts. All of that being said, I would strongly encourage you, when you talk to legal, to explore a couple options about how you organize. One of those is under 54A, you could organize as a nonprofit corporation with all of the benefits of a 501c3. You can do that under tribal law. And it would not be a tribally owned corporation. It would be tribally sponsored, or you would be organized under the laws of the tribe, but you'd be able to function as a pure community development corporation. In other words, the issues that Tom was raising about a tribal corporation has to have, you know, equal access and can't discriminate from, you know, one group to another. You could organize as a nonprofit community development corporation under tribal laws and be free of those restrictions. What I don't know, and this is why I think legal advice would help you out, I don't know what that would do in terms of the NAHASDA funding that you're looking at, but it could very well be that the NAHASDA funding could be something that would come through the Housing Authority and then would go to you as a community development organization or community development nonprofit organization. So it may be in your best interest to be a tribal corporation, but my suspect is that you might be better off to be a community development corporation under tribal laws. And I say that with a little bit of experience and having walked down multiple paths here in creating multiple corporations under tribal law. I've created a tribal corporation, SNK Technologies, and then I created a private, as a tribal member owned, for-profit corporation in about 2007, 2008, and then in about 2020, give or take, I developed a nonprofit corporation under tribal law. And none of those, with the exception of SNK Technologies, that was the only one that was a tribal corporation. So the flexibility that you have as a community development corporation under tribal law would be much broader than what you would have as a tribal corporation. But legal could walk you through those and also tie in with the NAHASTA funding that you're taking a look at. But for everything that I understand that you're trying to do, even all the way down to the fundraising effort, I think all of those things could be done with the fewest strings attached if you were to organize as a community development corporation under tribal law. The last question I have, it's almost a suggestion at the same time. I don't know if you intend on doing anything with your 501c3 under state law. I understand that you have that. I don't know if you intend to keep that or not, but well, let me just say it this way: unless it has some bearing on the NAHASTA funding, you don't need the state 501c3. You can do anything under the tribal incorporation laws as a nonprofit that you can under a 501c3. There's literally no difference. So I have the extra headache, if you will, of filing reports with the state and running the corporation under state law and tribal law at the same time. Why not just simplify it and do everything under the tribe? But legal, I think, could help walk you through some of those options and some of the pros and cons. But I think what you've got here is a great idea, and is something that really needs to be supported. I would just hate to see it get bogged down in unnecessary entanglements, being run as a tribal corporation or being run as a state corporation.
Yes, thank you, Greg. We'll take a look into all that when we go talk with the legal department. I guess one of the last things that I want to say is, based in like what they do over at Housing Authority and like for the federal money and everything, that's directed towards the low income tribal members. So like, what about the moderate income people? They're still experiencing homelessness as well, and that has to do with the overcrowding. So through tribal contribution and philanthropy efforts, we can kind of go after the people like the moderate income earners across the reservation, and they're the people. They're the group of people that have gone through the home ownership classes, and they are they're loan ready, they're loan approved and stuff. So if we can attack this from the inside out, and just kind of take subgroups of people and work towards the bigger picture of helping solve the homelessness.
That's a good target because they're the least supported group out there. They get in a catch-22, whereas they're making too much money for certain things. And if they're in low-income housing, all of a sudden they find their income is taking them to another level in their rent, which then takes them out of the ability to buy a house.
Yeah.
Or pay for a build. So yeah, it's a great target. Tom.
I was just going to bring up that exact same thing because that is so such an unmet need, because we have a lot of folks that are that in between and aren't being serviced. So for me, it's like, it was interesting to hear you say that there's basically no capacity for existing sewer and water systems in the Tri-City area. Well, that's a problem for me. And I know one time we talked to here in council about, let's start pre-planning what we're going to do with the water compact funding when it comes available, because we're going to have a whole pile of money that can go out there and put in sewer systems and water systems wherever we want to, to meet these unmet needs. So let's start planning that. Along with that, it's like that build ready subdivision for this middle class, or, you know, the people that are in between. We talked about doing that too. Let's lay out the subdivision and then wait for the people to come and can build the house on it and own it.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I hate people paying rent. I hate that they're not getting equity out of their money. It's incredible, you know, and I'm a landlord now, so I'm on the other side of the fence, but that's why I became a homeowner, because I'm throwing rent away. You know, I mean, this should be going to, you know, pay for this house. I should be able to own this. So, you know, I support that 100%. And I support the ability to be able to provide more for our folks that don't qualify for low income, or, you know, that need to own a home. And I have a son that's facing that right now, and he's pre-qualified, can't get nothing. I mean, he's just stuck in between and in the process, but yet there's tribal credit has issues and housing has issues, and he went through the classes and did all that stuff and approved, and it's just frozen.
Nowhere to go. Yeah.
Frozen.
Yeah.
But so that you can help meet this need. It's a fantastic thing you guys are doing. I really appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure in your critique of it when you're running up and successful that you're, you know, there's no biases. There's just, you know, you're going to meet the community need of that geographical area and do it very well.
All right.
Yeah.
And last thing that I wanted to mention, and I overheard this when we were going through the forums for the last election, and I thought it was a great idea, that it was brought up, you know, that the tribe, you know, do some in-house financing at the low interest rates, you know, because I've been paying attention to the news and stuff, and like the interest rates, you know, I seen somewhere upwards of 6.9%, you know, through the HUD 184, I think they can get you down to like 2% or something like that. But if you guys can take that into consideration to talk amongst yourselves, you know, and maybe work out some kind of deal between Tribal Credit or Eagle Bank or something, you know, so that we can really make this more affordable for our tribal members and not make it so they're paying outrageous amounts of interest, you know, I mean, just make it more affordable, you know, and let's start helping our people from the inside out. Lenny, do you have anything to say?
First of all, I want to commend all you guys for stepping up to do something like this, because it's really frustrating when you look up on the hill there and you see all those houses that went up just in the past 6 years. And none of them are ours. None of them are, as far as I know anyway. And then for that homeowners association to name their roadways after our families, you know, that was something that really bothered me. But I just think that this is a project that's doable. You just got to work out the kinks. And I'm glad you brought up Tribal Credit and Eagle Bank, because this is an opportunity for us to really look at our policies, to adjust our policies, I should say, to accommodate these types of projects, to make us truly self-sufficient and help us, you know. But yeah, I want to commend all you guys. This is something that we need to move forward with, but we need to think through it really carefully, because we will, like it was mentioned by somebody here before, we don't want to get caught up in all those federal restrictions. If we can avoid those.
Yeah, that's true.
We can avoid those and try to keep this internally within the tribe, where we can utilize our own resources to try to help it. Because I could see an idea like this expanding throughout the reservation in Hot Springs. You know, Hot Springs would be somewhere where we could get more housing too. And it's just the fact that we're getting our families to own their own homes. That's the most important thing, because home ownership is what really keeps our families together, right? If we're able to do that. But I remember when I first got on council, I remember housing coming in and explaining to us about restrictions on sewer and water and how we need to possibly expand our existing system to accommodate any more housing. But I never see nothing in writing. So I really don't know. So we need to get clarity on that. And, but yeah, it's just, it's an idea that, that we need to support. And it's just really, like I said, it's really commendable for you guys to sit down together and go through a plan like this, put a plan like this together. That's, yeah, that was just phenomenal. And I really want to commend you guys for that. So anyway, thank you for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. I guess I'll end on this note. You know, like, so there's 3 available lots from what I've heard, you know, out in Elmo, you know, if you guys can talk amongst yourselves, you know, and kind of set this pilot program off, you know, like, and find some funding to at least get started on one house. You know, if we can prove that this model works on one house and it builds the next 2, just to prove that the model works, you know, and then, you know, we can think bigger picture, you know, dynamics of it. But if not, you know, like we're prepared to start looking for grants and money and stuff like that.
One last question, just so we know how to move forward. Martin, you said it's a letter of good faith from legal that we need?
That's after you're established.
Oh, that's out.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that has nothing to do with this part.
Do you know which document is needed for that tribal entity establishment?
I would talk with Greg.
Just talk with
He's done it
legal?
more recently than.
Okay.
I was thinking, you know, we might be able to work something through sovereign leasing and finance to just get them off the ground for the first home. And then they work closely with the council. Maybe we can figure something out that route. It would depend on how much you need and all of that. So,
Yeah.
and then they can work on since it's a nonprofit, they could work out the interest rate with them.
Yeah, we kind of have like some estimates from when we went and talked with Housing Authority as far as like the homes that were built at the Gochi home sites, you know, and like we found out what the costs of that was. We found out how much a community sewer and water hookup would cost out in Elmo. So we have a brief estimates of, you know, what the cost might be, and we understand that there's a big old long checklist that you have to go through housing as far as getting a house built, like the ground, like the soil tests, and as far as like cultural clearance goes. And they said the list was like this long, so I don't know how much steps that is, but we could definitely get in touch with Housing Authority to figure out, you know, like what steps that we really have to go through to get, you know, shovels in the ground and get this project moving forward. That's all I have. Do you guys have anything to say?
Oh, yeah, I was wondering what you guys thought about, like, being able to let these houses, like, be built with some kind of eco system in it. Like, I found out there's a grant out there we build our houses with the ecosystem, any kind of ecosystem, that we could get 30% of the money back that we spent into the houses, each house.
Have you looked at the different kinds of construction that would qualify?
Well, I thought about a solar system, but I wasn't sure what you guys thought about the solar systems, since it has something to do with the power, but.
Definitely looking at green. That's one of our incentives, is that we are working on global warming and keeping things green. So definitely. There are several different ecosystem types of construction that we're looking at. Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to know before we like just add that in. And also, we don't know what you guys would have thought about if we were to apply for a grant to also repair already homeowners.
You as a community development corporation can do that.
Yeah,
you can do that.
Is that what we want to do is work with you guys the best we can to save you guys the money, you know, to try to help our own people out too. And I was, that's, that's it.
Right, Tom?
I think, Mr. Chair, our, climate change initiative would fall right in there. I mean, anything you do that makes the homes energy efficient and use just renewable resources. And so, yeah, solar, make sure that there's no oil or gas heating. It's all electric because all of our power comes from hydropower, which is renewable. But those standalone solar systems, that was big under Biden's administration. Started up back in the day with Obama, but Trump's been a killer to that in his administration. So right now, the great grants that were there for that initiative to make homes more super good sense type construction, renewable resources, and like solar, wind, those kind of things, they're not available anymore. They really have gone away. The only ones you can pull out are from nonprofits that offer it, but the big government ones are gone until this administration changes or Congress steps up and does the right thing. But yeah, it'll come back. Trust me, it will come back. But it's just a matter of it does fit our priorities, and the more you do towards that, the more you role model that, the better. So here's an example of other things that are adaptive. And you've experienced it up to the Tri-Cities more than anybody, probably recently, but the fire events. So when we think about climate change and I spent 6 years as a firefighter in wildland firefighting, but one of the things we're concerned about is air quality and how do people seek refuge and where do they go when it's all smoke-filled skies and they stay in their home. Well, what's the air quality inside their home? So how do you get good air when all the air outside is all smoked and heavy and hard to breathe? You got to have a filtration system that filters that air coming from outside and keeps that air quality inside. And as we move forward in time, we need more of that as an adaptation, a mitigation to increase fire, is to have more houses built with air filter systems that can clean that. And so your home is your refuge when there's bad air quality out there. And that's another thing that people don't think about. And housing doesn't do that right now in their standard. They don't have any filter of anything. So there is no refuge. Like me, at night I don't have any air conditioning. I open up all my windows at night, and if it's smoky, it's smoky. What the heck, But I close them during the day to keep the heat out. But what I should have is a filter, just a big old box filter and a fan, and filter that air that I'm bringing into my house to make the air quality better. But that's one of those things that
I like that idea. I think especially for a lot of elders, you could probably, get a lot of elders, something like that too. It's doable. Good. All right, thank you for your time.
Just a quick comment really quick.
sorry.
I just want to thank you guys for what you're doing. I truly appreciate the hard work. Housing is such a necessity and it's a need, and figuring out how we get more houses for our people and just stepping up and trying to do the right thing for your community. It's just amazing. And I look forward to updates, and we'd love to continue to support you guys and really watch the progress of this. So I want you guys to come to Hot Springs and to Leap next and help us out, because it's just really inspiring. Thank you.
One question as you're getting ready to go. Do any of you have construction experience?
Oh, geez, like 20 years ago. Nothing recent, no.
I mean, I used to work with my uncle Marlon on the houses that, were, but, and then when my dad passed away, I also went on building houses everywhere else with them, but I do want to get a lot of young guys out there to start building themselves so they have experience and a job for their future and stuff too. Richard Nichols? Yeah. Oh yeah. Ray Nichols? That's me. I know, sorry. I have long hair and goes all over. Thank you. Okay.
Do you got a big map that shows the whole thing in a system? Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. So I think what we're trying to get uploaded is just a bigger version of what I handed out. So this is for the fiber project we're all working on. And these will be contained within a business lease eventually. A business lease for like all the towers and the central office sites. But today, to keep the project moving forward, we just need to get permission for the contractors to survey the sites. Mhm. Just for today, and then they can, no. Everybody wants paid. These guys.
Go tower or COs first?
Um, I don't know, what's first in our packet? I think we had towers first, if you want to. So there's 8 central office locations where they'll just be the office containers. And then there's 10 sites that'll have like the container and a tower. Okay.
Question for Renee. Renee, have you scheduled time with the contractors to come in again and provide us updates and timeframes? And I know there were a lot of questions from some tribal member contractors on how they were gonna be able to get involved with the project and just things like that. I know at one time SKT provided a little workshop about how to contract with their contractors. I wonder if that's something that we should think about doing to let our local tribal member contractors know that, hey, we got this big broadband project that's coming up and there's opportunity for you guys to work during the construction season. Just a thought.
No, I know that you guys have, we brought them in once and they haven't been back since, but they will be coming back again soon, Tycom. And so we can definitely get them in here and ask about how they're going to be working with the tribes with the Indian preference. Do you have anything to say on that?
They've been in touch with Indian Preference Office, so they do have the list of Indian Preference businesses. I believe they made contact with Sam Barber and also Diamond Construction Crane. I forget the exact name, but the crane company for some of the stuff. So they are reaching out to some of those that are on the Indian Preference list. But it'd be good to get them back out here.
The other question that was brought up, I had two landowners who have individual trust property. Said they received some documents in the mail requesting easement across their property, and that they did not want to pay them for the easement, and instead it was going to be in lieu of these services, and that they didn't really quite understand how they were going to benefit from this, and whether or not, what is the implications if they were to deny that request, and it was just basic questions. I didn't have no answers for them, but I do know in the past that appraisals were required to establish fair market value of an easement, so you could let the landowner know what it's worth, and then they can decide at that time whether or not they want to waive it. And so I know at one time it was said that there was no funding in the grant to do the appraisals. Is that still the case, or did we figure out something different?
So I sent those letters out to all the allottees, and based on, like a collective. And so there was options on the consent form. And it was explained to them in a cover letter that the request that, that they were asking them to waive. But they were also told that they were entitled to compensation if they wished it. And so there was a checklist on the back where they had the option to waive, they had the option to negotiate their own terms, they had the option to request a fair market value. And so we've gotten mixed, a mixture of those back. And so I don't think there was money to do, because there's 77 allotments in the project. And so there wasn't in their budget, as far as I know, the money to do an appraisal for each tract.
Okay, so if any of those landowners just say no.
And if they just say no, which
That's
we
not
have
the
had one.
project.
Yeah, if we have had one. And so I've let them know that it was a 1/1 owner and she denied it. And so they're just looking at ways to route it to go around like fee property.
Thank you.
I guess just how we would, do any other type of easement. And then we have ordered some appraisals too, or one so far. Yeah. That it? Okay. Yeah, I'll let.
Go ahead, Carol.
Just wondering, does the contractor have that kind of authority to authorize use like that? Grant use of
Individual land owned property? Is that what you're asking?
I mean, no, like, let's say they say no, or they say yes, but who's gonna make sure that they have service?
Well, this grant is offering basic, what is it, the backbone infrastructure.
Yeah,
It's
so
not
they
the
won't
middle
get-
mile, it's not
yeah.
the hooking up to the houses. It's making sure we're connected to Kalispell and Missoula by a loop that then make sure any break is covered by the other side of it, so.
That's what I thought. So how can you say you're gonna get service when that's not the case?
Well, you'll have the right to access it, is what you'll have.
Do they know that?
No, we didn't offer service. All they've been offered was the opportunity to negotiate like what terms they want on their right of way or what type of compensation they want.
Oh, I thought I
At
heard you
this
say
time.
that if they wanted, they could get service.
No, they asked,
Okay.
and so.
And
if you
maybe
wanna
I'm just
explain-
confused. It's easily confused here.
Yeah,
So
it's okay. It's a big project. There's a lot of moving parts in it.
Yeah, with us building this out and then turning it over to a different tribally owned entity to manage it, we didn't want to hold to those promises. So we just figured that would get a little messy. So, and I know one person that did ask for services, they're probably going to hit the poverty line, so they're going to get it for free anyways. So, yeah, so we're not offering any services at this moment.
Go ahead, Len.
Or Renee. When the hub is developed, constructed, developed, maintain, or operating, what about staff? Is there funding in the grant that's going to create more jobs for people to work there, or are you going to be assigning your staff over there? Or how's that going to work?
Well, in the grant, it does say that we would have an ISP in the end. We have not decided, or internet service provider. And so we have not decided yet if we are looking at allowing another company to do the work of running the ISP, but there was some funding in there for 5 positions. And that was mainly to probably hook up, on the, what is it?
On the customer end devices. So,
Yeah.
like the home router, Wi-Fi, and then a couple of those technicians, and then a network administrator and analyst, network analyst.
So that part has not been decided on yet, Lynn, because I'm not sure we have the capability of running an ISP through the tribe.
Everybody seen all the sites where the towers go?
I was gonna have,
Where the
so Chuck
specs-
was gonna run through them for you guys, and then, if you have questions, on any of them, just let us know.
Okay, this is the Pablo Knox CO. So on the north side of the parking lot, it's going to be a larger concrete building, 24 by 38 or 24 by 40. And that's going to be our main site there. So that's the track.
What, you have a whole bunch of stuff stored there? What kind of, you guys have security going and checking it occasionally, or?
So requested through Law and Order to do extended patrols. So they're going to be going there throughout night and the weekends and during the day to do that. We're kicking around the idea of setting up some cameras out there as well too. Some trail cameras at the moment since we don't have the infrastructure out there. But we did reach out to Law and Order to
That looks expensive, right?
it does. So
It's worth nothing. Nothing to steal.
We're an open, huh? Yeah, there's no, yeah, it's no copper at all. Yeah.
there's no cost.
Precious metals.
And then this next one is the Kicking Horse CO. It's back there by the south side by the baseball field. This one is where the 150-foot monopine is going to be going along with it's a little bit larger. What did I say? 12
By twin.
12 by 20 concrete buildings going there at Kicking Horse. This one is down in Mission. It's out there on the road going out to the Mission Dam site, and it's right next to that water tower there. And then that one is a 12 by 12 as well. And this is down in Arlee. So the 12 by 12 is going in behind by the water tower there in Arlee. I think this is the school there, and Tribal Health Clinic is right there. So we're back there by that water tower.
It's like 50-foot tower right in the middle of a housing community.
This one is just a 12 by 12 concrete. The tower is going to be over by the community center. Well,
Okay, so this is just the box over.
yeah, so
Okay.
the concrete buildings hold the equipment mainly for the fiber backbone. But in some locations, it's also going to hold the radio equipment for the tower. There's based off of the wires propagation and studies, it makes sense to put the tower right next to the concrete. In other places, we need to put the tower out somewhere else, a distance away from these COs. And in those cases where it's a tower only, the radio equipment is going to be stored in a cabinet on the concrete pad that the tower's on. So, and they'll just have like DC power as well as backup power there. So these first ones are either the concrete building with or without a tower on it. So I'll try to update you on which ones have a tower with them. This one is Gray Wolf. This one is a concrete 12 by 12 and a 50-foot tower.
I just worry about curb appeal with this great big tower right there next to the casino. I don't know. Those towers are just ugly to look at anyways, and it's right off the highway. I guess they're popping up everywhere, whether they're ours or somebody else's, but yeah. Is it gonna look like a tree?
No.
No.
Can that one look like a tree?
The one that looks like a tree is the one that's be out at Kicking Horse. That's 180 foot, 150 foot tower. These are only 50 foot and there's just one square long piece.
Are you familiar with the tower at MVP? You ever seen the tower in the MVP yard down the way? It's more similar to that at the top, where it's a smaller bomb. It's not like a big base like our big.
Not likely we can make the casino any uglier.
Yeah.
We've
No,
got a
we-
big ass reader board, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we were having
Throw some
issue,
TP poles around it and make it all.
yeah, we were having troubles even thinking of putting a tower out at Kicking Horse because it was, if we could see it from the highway. So yeah, we try to keep that into consideration.
Have you told Steep and Small Salmon about it yet?
Tell Stephen Small Salmon about it.
Yeah.
Gonna put it up behind his house. Yeah. Are the towers earth tones? Or are they gonna be galvanized steel, or can they be painted black or green or brown?
I can find out and get back to you on that.
We need to do like digi camo?
They can, yeah. What color are we gonna go with?
All right, so this one is Polson. It is a 50-foot tower and a 12 by 12 concrete on the same property there. That's corner of Seventh and yeah, First Street. That's that. The senior center is over here on this side of the road, and that's that property with
The old MVP
building.
carpentry shop. She removed the asbestos siding. It's been cleaned up now. But that's the boneyard or the little parking, the chain linked parking area.
So this one's Elmo. This one's a 12 by 12 concrete at this location. The tower is going to be more back over here in this area. But it's going to be on that side of the parking lot in between 93 and the parking lot. And the tower is going to be up on this fence line out there.
Did you guys talk to KCC about this one? Because we're gonna be up there in a
Mhm.
couple of weeks and I'm.
So Tara said that she had reached out to them and talked to Vernon and that they were okay with it, but we'll probably loop back around and just double check. Yeah, I was like, we'll probably double check and make sure on that one.
I just get
Yeah.
nervous for approval for that site right there next to the center and then us up there in 2 weeks and we approved it and we're trying to,
I know.
I don't want us to be backpedaling in
I thought that too.
a
I was
couple of weeks.
hoping.
We got the list of plans. We went to both committees and preservation to get all of those. And we had a number of sites that were taken out of consideration for those. So what we have right now is what, so far, we have approvals. Understanding they reserve the right, they can change that at any time.
They have really short memories up there.
I got it back.
Great.
I got to back up to the Polson one and the old MVP carpet. That's it's really space limited for parking if that's a commercial property to me. So is there a way to look at maybe the NRD Fish and Wildlife office space as a tower location?
We did. That's not gonna, so we did try to look to see about doing a colo with MVP on the backside of the fisheries. They have great use of that lay down yard there, so we can't be taking up any room. The other location that we could look at and we have looked at is right here on the other side of this community center. To the east, there's that fenced in with the boat and
Boneyard,
other- yeah. So we could move it over there. The concern on that property, and this one was picked over that, is that one, there's a high tension power line going right by it. So they're kind of, didn't know if they could get the tower further enough back away from that power line. So we can always revisit that. Yeah, so I don't think.
You don't need
Permission to survey.
Yeah, they wanted to get the contractor's permission to start the surveys, because then after the surveys, they can start doing like the geotech work for them. I guess even if you guys were ready to grant that on some of them, but not all of them, that would give them, they could get moving on it.
I don't know why we limit the permission to survey and, yeah. Would we? Martin?
What I did have is the RLE site. I've heard that that water tower is failing and they may be replacing it at some point. Are you aware of that?
Originally, they were gonna look at attaching to the top of it, but that's what was determined is we're staying away from that water tower. So we're just putting that concrete building in that general area, but we're not using that for a tower, so we're not gonna put our equipment on it.
Do you still have more pictures to go through? Is there more spots?
We got a few more spots.
So this is
Yeah.
what the tower kind of looks like, a little 50-foot. Okay. Yeah, so this one, like I said, the RLE by the water tank is only a 12 by 12 concrete building. The actual 50-foot tower is, so there's the RLE Community Center. It's out past the parking lot in that, it's really not much out there in that little area. So that's where that little tower is going to be at. This is down at Camas.
Yeah, back at the Arlie site, I know the question came up with, Mary Rose's, recycling containers. That she wanted to put one like right there where your tower is proposed or your building. And the topic was, well, when there's events at the community center, you know, large events or then the skate park, why not move the container site across the way to the rodeo grounds, that entrance? Because there's less use over there. And I guess that would be the question, could the tower be over just across the road?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see what side of the road it's on. It's gonna matter much to us. Just gotta redirect the fiber that's going to it, so.
That would be not as conflicting for overflow parking or, you know, events there on that side.
Okay. Or. Okay, well, we'll get through these.
Just my thought. My Arlesian said, just I'm at large, I've covered Arlie. Skate park's not on the picture.
Yeah. And this one is Charlo. So towns over here, you come out, go across the railroad tracks. It's by the, looks like a baseball field out there. Once again, these are towers only. There's not going to be a building with them. The equipment's attached to them on a cabinet. Dixon Old Agency. So this doesn't have the Sandy Morjo building, but Anita Matt building there. And we're not dead set on this spot. It's just gonna be somewhere out in there, so.
It's starting to finally look good down there. We've got green grass coming in the entranceway and no garbage. And now, I mean, we're getting lots of traffic with the skate park. It's been really exciting watching our community grow in a healthy way. I would ask that it goes behind the Sunny Morjo building if possible, just to the big tower kind of out of sight, out of mind, or just that grassed area. I don't know what's going to become of our town as we grow, but I like that little entryway, just feeling welcoming, I guess. So well, I would love new trees back there. I don't know what happened or why all of our old trees went bye-bye, but yeah, it used to be really pretty coming in, but yeah. How is it there? If you put like a rock climbing wall, we could put it in the middle of the park and I.
Oh, so I haven't seen the Sunny Morgio trailer, but is that behind the Anita Matt building?
No, it's a river, towards the river.
And so you want it over there?
Yeah, back behind it if possible. There's space back there. There's a power pole, there's power and all the things you need back there.
Mark said they own that whole land.
Yes.
Yeah, the old postal yard back there a little bit.
Just don't dig up bones down there. No.
Yeah, I just gotta go back to Polson. So up on Skyline Drive, the tribal land up there is not good? Where there's other towers? I can see the airport might be a issue with it.
And I know we talked about one up Skyline. Came out of it. There were two things with that property. Number one, where it is on that ledge, it actually is too high to hit the homes right there in that whole other side. And the second part was getting fiber to it. So the cost to get the fiber there, the benefit was we could stop at the retreat. But to get the fiber off the main roads up there was going to be a lot of money. That was a large driving force.
Was the retreat a potential site?
Retreat was a potential site for, so it's not having right now direct, as far as the antenna, it could have been, and then it's still in that it's just one step lower on that plateau from the wireless site, but it's still higher. We looked at that because Mark was mentioning how much of that property Tribe's own. But the problem was also still getting the fiber up there. And we could still look at it though. We've been trying to slice and dice as much as we can to keep it under budget.
Which one? Like.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was one of the original ones we looked at. Yeah.
So kind of discussed this before on the Elmo, so the tower is not quite next to the concrete building. It's up there along that property line. Mission Dam home sites. Once again, the original design was going to use these water towers and we were told to stay off of them. So we are putting a tower up near it, but we're not going to put any equipment on the water tower. And then this one is the MVP. It's in their yard. Ishi, it's down in that corner. This one, horrible name, Red Sleep Dixon. We were originally going to put a tower on top of Red Sleep in the Bison Range, but after looking at the wires propagation, it wasn't going to cover that 200 corridor. It really wasn't going to give us any advantage to put one up there. So we moved it off of Red Sleep and more towards the Dixon area. So that's right there between Ravalli and Dixon. And that should cover that entire 200 stretch throughout there. Turtle Lake.
This legend.
And so this is the hot springs one. So there's the community center. We are asking to remove that empty shed there. And so the concrete building will be going here in this yellow square. And then this little red dot is where the 50-foot tower would be, pretty much right on the back side of the community center there. That's all of them.
I think Ravelli was covered by the one that went down 212 right below Buffalo Springs, the Red Sleep one that they showed, right? That services Ravelli. Okay.
And just for you guys, for everybody's awareness, is our existing 180-foot towers. We are putting equipment on that. So those are covering up some of those areas. So because we have one down there on Pistol, so.
Martin, are you talking to us? But you're looking at me. Okay.
I'm surprised Greg's not asking about Valley Creek.
So I don't know if you guys are ready to make a decision today or if you want us to kind of go back and I mean, if you're okay with Olson, if there was nothing else, or look for more sites there. Elmo will double check with KCC. Arlie, will it be easy to move? Should we move across? And then the Dixon should be easy to move across. Yeah.
Well, any thoughts?
I'd make a motion with amendments.
Go ahead, Len.
Directed at Renee. Renee, do we know how much funding has been expended from the grant? Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
I'll look at the Excel and get that back to you.
Okay.
The exact amount.
All right. And just to clarify, this was a $41 million grant or
42.
42?
And I want to say I know that we've drawn down 7 million off of the grant.
And we haven't broke ground yet.
But we had to order the equipment.
Okay.
And I'm making them get their easements, so.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle.
Yep.
Well, I think they're looking for a motion to allow the permission for surveying all these sites that they just presented to us. Motion by Martin to allow the surveying on tribal land. Second by Tom. All in favor? Everybody okay? Unanimous?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
They still won.
Yeah, thank you.
Dog Lake.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. And then we did have one more issue that we'll have to go into executive for. It's not scheduled, but
We will go out of regular to executive.
Want me to do? So, oh, the door's open.
Rich said it wasn't an executive, it's an open. And then we had, Delphine that needed to ask a request and after McKenna.
We requested an executive session in case we touch on anything sensitive, but I'm not too picky. I know this is kind of at the latter end of the day, so.
You,
Oh, okay. That's perfect. That's perfect. So good afternoon, Chairman and members of the council. Nice to see you again today. I've been asked to come on behalf of the Natural Resources Department to discuss the storms that we've been faced with in the last few months here on the reservation, most specifically the mid-March windstorm and heavy snowstorm, just to give an update as regards to how that went from the Disaster and Emergency Services Program behalf, and take the opportunity to discuss with you some facets as to how we might choose to respond and communicate in the future of similar events, or more intense high-scale emergencies. And I thought I would also take the opportunity while I was here to just give some updates on what is known as the Emergency Operations Plan. Thank you so much. And opportunities for DES and Tribal Council to be in a method of communication that is best received by the council members, making sure that we're addressing the needs of the reservation to the best of our abilities. So I threw together a little bit of a multifaceted agenda request. I need to quit doing that. And I recognize it's at the end of the day here. So I'm going to be as brief as possible. Rich, at any point, please know that you can jump in if I'm missing details, and I'll take questions at any time. But just starting with kind of my first agenda item was really touching base on this last storm that occurred and kind of giving you an overview of how we approached the storm. Of course, there's some, oh, already a question. Oh, okay, that's perfect. Thank you. So yes, this first page is really just looking at the multifaceted agenda request for today. So I'll start there. The other pages are kind of what is to come that I can share. So in regards to the storm that happened in mid-March, specifically, we started seeing some high winds in the evening of March 11th. March 12th was the really big windstorm event, followed by about 3 days of heavy snow and rain that made that snow even heavier. And some days we can predict when we're about to go through a little bit of a rough period, such as a severe storm. Other times we might be blindsided by something we weren't necessarily looking out for, and we have to respond. So this effort, we had our eyes on thanks to the forecasting of the National Weather Service office in Missoula. They were incredibly proactive in communicating with us that something big was coming across their radar, not just for our region, but it really was a statewide storm, just like what we all experienced in December. But this time we were getting heavy snow with the high winds. So there were concerns of low visibility. There were definite concerns of downed power lines and outages, et cetera. So the DES program attended a kind of a last minute emergency briefing with the National Weather Service office on Tuesday, March 10th. Actually, it might have been March 9th, that Monday. But we worked with Rob McDonald on getting communication at least out through CSKT, making everyone aware of this slightly abnormal weather event and providing feedback to the best of our abilities as to how to best prepare, how to stay calm during that event, and what to do during it. So that was our first approach, was to be very communicative in advance. I was working alongside Division of Fire, who had teams at the ready with chainsaws for any trees that might have been blown down covering roads. And I was in close contact with Mission Valley Power on making sure that their teams were just on higher alert for what could be an unfortunate series of events with power outages with this weather pattern. And I attended actually an after action review with Mission Valley Power, and they said, man, they and their teams were just really beaten by this weather pattern because they thought they had one more outage, two more outages to go, and it just kept coming. So it was in total a rough 5 days for Mission Valley Power's team in trying to get power restored. It started in the south and then just slowly moved up north. And the cause of most of those power line conditions and outages were not necessarily the high wind event that we experienced on that Thursday, but a lot of that heavy wet snow pulled down trees like crazy. There were, for example, at Kings Point, some residents who were taking matters into their own hand and cutting down trees that they thought were affecting the power lines. And we're going to be working on that because that was actually extremely dangerous and not recommended. And Mission Valley Power wants to make sure that their service area is better aware of when it's safe to help out and when it's not a great idea. Of course.
Just a quick comment on that for clarification.
Yes.
They had to cut the trees so people could get out. The main roads, we had trees fall over the road and people couldn't get out at all. So that was the reason why the trees were being cut.
Oh, totally understood. Thank you for that clarification. Yes, and when these emergencies come into fruition, definitely access is such an important piece, not only for residents to escape for any purpose, but definitely for emergency responders to get in. So we definitely recognize that there's times where matters, it's a community-wide effort by all means, but making sure that Mission Valley Power and their service area is aware of whether there's any electrocution concern or, making sure that nobody's nearing the lines if the power is not indeed turned off. So it was just kind of a crazy storm. We did our best. At times like these, this is kind of my second experience of this scale. And previously, I would say I worked and relied on quite heavily with Lake County just because of their expertise and their history of how to respond to these types of circumstances. And so I was kind of waiting to hear if an evacuation shelter was going to be opened by American Red Cross. Previously, American Red Cross has been notified by Lake County directly, Office of Emergency Management. And it's my understanding American Red Cross just kind of waits to be told that we need a shelter opened up. So this storm, I think just due to the duration, we were thinking, oh, it's about to be over. Perhaps no shelter was needed at one point and another, and then another moment you had enough outages, perhaps the shelter would have been useful. And then there's the question of, well, do we want people staying put and staying safe and just kind of waiting it out rather than driving, 20, 30 miles to a dedicated shelter just to charge electronics? Like it's definitely this case by case scenario that we're trying to improve planning on. And I'll touch on our plans and the updates that are necessary. But this is kind of the struggles that were faced during this storm. And we were trying to just monitor it very closely and keep partnerships well aligned and informed. Just trying to make sure that we were addressing concerns in a timely manner. But for the most part, there's a lot of room for improvement, I would say, especially in communication amongst agencies and making sure, for example, Mission Valley Power, if Division of Fire has men with chainsaws, that we're making sure we're addressing those closed roads more efficiently. So that is, in a nutshell, kind of the update that I really have at this time for that storm. No shelter was set up by American Red Cross, but I think we're really learning also that we need triggers, I would say, to help us understand when actions are ready to be pursued. So something that I'm in the works with Mission Valley Power on is understanding, do we want to open an emergency shelter? For example, here in Polson, we've typically, I think, utilized Linderman Elementary School. Do we want to open up that shelter if there's a certain number of power outages, or maybe, oh, these power outages have happened for X number of hours, or maybe it's based off of climate. So if temperatures are dropping below freezing, we want to make sure people are staying safe and warm. So those triggers, if we can get those defined and mutually agreed upon, I think we will see greater success in knowing who's doing what, when, and where. So that is my update on the storm. I do have two other agenda items I wanted to touch on, but I wanted to take a pause. Rich, if there's anything you wanted to add or make sure I include, or if there's other questions.
No, I think both Tony and I wanted to make sure the council um had all of their questions answered in this forum. I think the big thing that we're still working through, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, is when an emergency is triggered, and who makes that determination through the members of the council.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and McKenna, thank you for coming in. So you said mutual triggers. So you're talking about we would have to have defined triggers with Lake County Emergency Services and Missoula County Emergency Services, Sanders County Emergency Services, and Flathead County Emergency Services.
And or partnerships like American Red Cross, Division of Fire, Forestry, even internal departments, having defined triggers. Our current plans say open a shelter, and it's just kind of based on interpretation. But if we have these agreed upon triggers to know, like, okay, this quota has been met, now it's time. And they could be flexible, they could be case by case, but to have some sort of understanding of when it's appropriate.
We think the one thing that I've noticed, at least in the last 4+ years sitting here on the tribal council, is that we've changed some of our policy to reflect the concern for freezing temperatures. And so when do people really need shelter and refuge from the elements that are out there? And so sometimes it could be, they're in jeopardy of a wildfire coming their direction. And so they need to evacuate. So it's a forced evacuation. Where do they go? Automatically, you're asking people to evacuate, they have to have a shelter, right? That's a trigger. So this particular one is a disaster of immense snowfall that caused a lot of downfall in trees. And so the power was out for a long time, but it happened to be out when it was freezing and it's snowing and pretty heavy snowfall. So they didn't have what we would define as shelter that's heated. And so that is not considered shelter. So they need shelter. And so that would be, at least in my perception, in this particular case, I would have called Red Cross or whatever, set up something, because it's, unless they had a wood stove or they had portable gas stoves, they still, their water might have froze up. They still need to bathe and cook and eat and, survive. So to me, it would be nicer to have that. And hopefully nobody has to use it. They're that well self-contained, but somebody would probably have used it because the size of the outage looked pretty big. That would be my perception.
Any other questions? Are we getting more snow Wednesday?
The suggestion is that Thursday morning thus far is perhaps the higher snow event for our elevation, but I have to look at a more recent update. But it does sound like winter is moving back in temporarily, at least Wednesday through Saturday, perhaps, is a general timeline. Hard to know for sure, right?
We'll have to figure out what's the best trigger when we get all those grasshoppers in Camps Prairie. Go ahead, McKenna.
I think Rich made a perfect segue. It's something that we've been meaning to kind of define, and I think it's definitely time and that we're ready to look back into it, is understanding the procedure for tribal council here, how you would like to declare an emergency officially. It looks different for every tribe, and perhaps you might remember how it has been done previously. I've been looking into it, and I personally haven't quite yet found the methodology that may have been used in the past. I did have a conversation with Fort Peck Reservation earlier this week, and I learned that their emergency manager or DES coordinator will essentially reach out to their tribal chairman equivalent in advance of a disaster or as one is occurring and make the recommendation for an emergency declaration. And that looks like a template, a form that they have already pre-approved that would get the signature and the date of the tribal chairman or the next in line if available. So that is one possibility that some reservations do. It does not have to be the case for all, but an official emergency declaration is important for multiple reasons. Essentially, it leads to the possibility of getting FEMA financial support down the line if we have that official emergency declaration on file. That is something I didn't really know until more recently. So putting the pieces together as far as what kind of documentation opens doors for us.
I think the challenge is when the power went out, the internet went out, and you could not get any messages to anybody. So nobody knew. So that's, we need to, like you said, figure out if we're going to have those shelters set up ahead of time, have them established. So when something does happen, they're there and people know where to go.
That's a great point.
The benefit of having a landline. It's a landline. The landline is electrified by its own power.
You gotta learn how to use that telegraph over there in Hot Springs. So.
Smoke signals again? Our last emergency declarations here happened with council. An actual vote in council.
Okay. That makes sense. So waiting until a Tuesday or a Thursday to put in the resolution, I guess, for an emergency declaration, or just having a conversation. It'd probably be a resolution. Am I understanding that correctly?
This one was connected with COVID, and so there was timing. And so we definitely would have to be able to poll the council in the event that it needed to happen immediately.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I'm learning through these processes that there's a difference between an emergency declaration and a disaster declaration. So an emergency declaration, in a nutshell, just recognizes the conditions of the situation that we may be facing. A disaster declaration is recognizing there have been financial losses and yes, yep, absolutely. But they still want an emergency declaration on file as well, as what I'm learning.
Got to do two, the emergency and a disaster.
That's how I understand the process thus far. The disaster declaration is financially based, whereas the emergency declaration is saying we're above capacity. We're declaring an emergency, and that can lead to other certain triggers depending on how we choose to update these plans, such as a typical item is having a dedicated center where emergency operations take place. So there's triggers for both, but they both are documentation needed for FEMA assistance down the line.
Yeah, the last one ended up with a declaration of sheltering in place.
So this is kind of preliminary conversation based, it helps to know that perhaps I could reach out directly to Chairman Dolson if we're looking at what could be an emergency, and then maybe you could counsel further on how you would like that emergency declaration to go, whether it waits for a council vote or otherwise. So it could be case by case dependent. Is that the proper channel of communication that I'd reach out directly to you, or would I reach out to Rob McDonald directly? Any other? Okay. That makes sense. And would phone calls be appropriate, or you would want an email notification first? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome that we have a disaster person now. I mean, we had one for years and never heard it. And now we have somebody asking questions when and what and all of that. So it's beautiful. Thank you.
Well, learning as I go in many ways, but thank you very much for being so collaborative.
Do you have a vehicle a company vehicle?
Yes. Yes. Fantastic. We have worked really hard in the Natural Resources Department to supply it with resources that are going to be useful for any sort of circumstance that we may come across. Not a Toyota, I'm sorry, it's a Ford F-150 with a lot of great storage. So it's set up really well. It will still slip on ice. I encountered that over by the ponds near Kicking Horse during that crazy ice storm we had, but it's very reliable.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't have to rebuild the other one.
So I think the rest of using your time the most wisely here during this agenda request item would be, I'm looking at my notes here just to be concise. Have most of you heard of the Emergency Operations Plan, the EOP for the tribes? It's a roughly 300-page document. It was last updated in 2010. And from my understanding, we had a contracting company who really helped put this together. And I think they made an almost carbon copy for Lake County as well. They look very similar. But these plans are ideally updated every 5 years. So it's definitely time to get this one updated. And the components of an emergency operations plan, most of it is a living document. So we update it as we need it. But the breakdown of these plans is there's an introduction, and that introduction should be signed by tribal leadership. So every 2 years, if there's new council members, we ideally would be updating the beginning base plan, nice, short and sweet, that encompasses these are the disasters that we might be prone to on the reservation. Here are the hazards that we are aware of, such as wildfire, flooding, severe winter weather. I've heard recommendations that an executive summary at the beginning, perhaps by a tribal chairman or CEO, would be a nice touch to really showcase, as there's new tribal council members, perhaps making sure that the priorities and the values of the reservation are communicated at the beginning of the plan, so that the annexes, as they're known, that follow the rest of the introduction, make sure that they are taking those priorities into consideration. The annexes are split by hazard type. So a bad snowstorm, a bad wildfire, what are the step-by-steps that we need to do before, during, and after? And the second half of annexes are operational. So how do we open an emergency operations center? Who's involved, et cetera? There's a lot of work to be done in updating these plans, and my intention is to involve all the appropriate individuals who will play a role in prioritizing those that are the most frequent or the most impactful, because there's plenty of stuff to get updated in here. And if we just went chronologically, we might not be as effective in making sure we're ready for whatever could come next. So that's the intention for this year. So there will be eventually down the line a request for signatures of all tribal council members here, and those absent today, but to make sure that this plan works the best for the reservation and the priorities. But I did want to volleyball this idea of an executive summary to the tribal chairman to see if that is something that you would like added into the CSKT emergency operations plan. And it's okay if you want to think on it. Again, just kind of introducing the possibility to you. I've had someone explain it to me as, if you have a business plan, you typically have the executive director have an executive summary at the beginning that just kind of really sets the tone for the rest of the document and the plans. And it sounds like a nice idea. If long-term that is something that you think the tribal council would enjoy updating, there's that possibility to consider.
Giving us that option.
Absolutely. It's not obligatory, but it would be a really nice touch, especially as, like I said, just making sure that.
Yeah. No, that needs to be updated.
Yes.
Those definitely. Any thoughts? Don't know what the timeline will be. I hope it doesn't take it a disaster to bring it about.
I know these topics are kind of downer to talk about sometimes, but I actually saw this quote yesterday from the world of emergency management, and it said prepared, not scared. And that's how I like moving forward, is we're just trying to have items in place, resources recognized, people named, so that if anything comes about, we know what to do, and we're taking care of people, we're keeping them warm, and not having this ambiguity of who's doing what, is this happening, is that happening? It's just being taken care of.
You say people named, is it positions named or people named?
So, as part of each plan, depending on the circumstance, even in these plans from 2010, there's what's known as a policy group, and that policy group should be made of each tribal council member, as well as other key leaders in tribal administration that you feel in a high level event should be part of the decision making, or just information sharing. And so knowing who those individuals are internally in CSKT, other department heads or departmental figures that should be involved in ABC, as well as mutual aid partnerships external to CSKT. So we can get as detailed as we want, or keep things brief, but especially myself being new to CSKT since last June, really trying to know who would I contact for this situation versus another. So that's what I mean by people named. Mhm. All right. So aside from the executive summary and just kind of letting you know that this is in the works to being updated, and there were no other comments or questions about the storms, I think really just on my end, understanding what tribal council would like of the DES program in terms of updates. Would you like me to physically come in after every physical event that we experience on the reservation and give you an update kind of as I just did? Or would you like to be receiving, chairman or others, reports that I do after every incident, large or small? Just kind of understanding what you expect and making sure that I'm following through.
Definitely the updates. Might even be more regularly than just after events.
I think, Mr. Chair, the one things that I'm always interested, because nobody really keeps I guess a chronological list of events, and we don't really look at a histogram or something. Well, this is occurring more frequently. We need to start, preparing better for that, or have mitigation in play that would help prevent people being displaced or impacts of humans. So, just keeping a list of how many wind events and what occurred and where at, that would be, like that, or, ice events, or just so we can see how we might be able to do some prevention planning and how we do our land use or develop, hopefully someday, building codes. Just different things like that would be nice for me to think about as a hobbyist land use planner. But the data. So I mean, like, power outages, MVP gives us some stuff like that, but what caused this power outage? Well, it was because there's too many trees, or because they're above ground lines. So maybe there's certain areas we could identify based on the data you present to us that would help us give guidance or suggestions to Mission Valley Power to go underground, and then we wouldn't have this happen, that kind of thing. That would be great.
I think that's wonderful feedback. I absolutely agree. I'm very much so. I like to get data and tell a story based off of what we're learning, so that it's not just an event that hit us and that we don't learn from. So that is actually something I have sent out to MVP, is asking them which areas are your most problematic. Was there an average outage in hours or minutes? Which outage took the longest to solve? Like those types of metrics, if we can start collecting them, if we haven't already, that's the kind of information that will really paint a picture of how can we be using the Disaster and Emergency Services Program to the best of its potential. The frogs over by Charlo, or?
Yeah. Oh yeah, black bear, frog, snake. It was a snake that started a wildfire. electric fence. But you know, the fire data is pretty good. You know, our fire division does a pretty darn good job. You know, we can identify lightning strike from man cause, and that's great data. But yeah, a little bit deficient on power outages and things that happen in that regard.
What else?
I think, let me just make a double check on my list. And Rich, I want to make sure I give you the chance if you want to pop in if I'm missing anything. But I think from my end, that is all I really wanted to cover today. And I'm thankful. And I'm sorry, I didn't even use the monitor, but the other pages I did include in the packet today just include an excerpt of the existing emergency operation plan for severe weather events and just the step-by-step of how it currently states what the steps of disaster emergency services would be. And I'm hoping after this conversation, if you have the chance to even just briefly look through it, maybe you can see the ambiguity that I'm hoping the updates to this plan will clarify in regards to adding those triggers or making sure that priorities are emphasized better in regards to the values that are near and dear right now to the reservation so that those actions are actually addressing those priorities.
Anything else for McKenna? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. And Rich, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, can I say something just briefly?
No. Go ahead, Rich.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Her vehicle is a stark white vehicle, has the tribal logo on it and says emergency services. So you can see it coming, and it has lights and all the things that an emergency vehicle does have. So it's here in Polson, and so it's easily identifiable. So you will see her out and about. Just wanted to let you know.
Thanks, Rich.
Is it an electric vehicle? I have to ask for Tom.
No.
Hybrid? Good on gas, let's pretend?
No, it's good on gas, but those electric vehicles, the mining that gets those critical minerals is not good.
Mega boy.
Negative. No.
Thanks, McKenna.
Thank you again for your time.
Then we're just adding Jordan and Delphine for the last item for today.
Good. Come on up, Delphine. Jordan. Are we renting buses?
All right, well, good afternoon, Tribal Council. This morning Delphine came in with an issue about Two Eagle River School buses. And so I'll let her kind of kick it off and explain the scenario we're in, and then I can give you guys the legal department recommendation.
Two Eagle has 3 buses through GSA. 2 of the leases are still out there. They will not let Two Eagle repair the buses just anywhere. They suggested I take the buses to Spokane. Don't know how long they're going to take to fix. It's been like an ongoing problem for about 2 years. Two Eagle is done leasing from GSA. We just have had to come up with so many alternative ways to get the kids to and from school. We work with Model 1, me and Corky Sias, all of his transportation vehicles, all of my Head Start buses are through Model 1. I've never had to lease through them. We've always purchased outright because they understand the safety issues, all the guidelines that we require. Two Eagle would like to get rid of their lease through GSA and get into a lease with Model 1, which would be 5 years, and they would have the chance of owning the buses at the end of 5 years. If not, Model 1 also has continuous buses that they could allow us to lease. But when I got with them and they understand that council needs has to sign off on all of them. In the past, I've never had this issue. I lease from all over, and due to the policies, they just are extra diligent about, getting your guys' approval and making you aware of it. So that's why we're here. There's one clause that, what's your name? Jordan has to talk about.
So the lease looks pretty standard. It's like Delphine has said, I think you've entered into many leases like this before, but they put a cover page on here. And on the cover page, so I talked to Chairman Dolson about it. He said, take it up to legal, took it up to Dan Decker. He reviewed it. And he said, based on his review of the lease, it looks pretty standard, but there is a clause in here for a waiver of sovereign immunity. And so in looking at the waiver of sovereign immunity, it's just up to the any liability that comes out of the contract, we're waiving our sovereign immunity for that purpose. And also there's a choice of law clause that puts it under Minnesota law. And so not ideal, but I don't think it's the end of the world for these types of leases either. So with that being said, we just, Dan said we needed to take this to council to get the waiver of sovereign immunity approved, and then we can go forward with the lease. It sounds like this entering into a lease is kind of urgent, as we needed to do this today to get the buses by Thursday. Is that correct? Yes. Yeah, so it was urgent.
Good.
Alrighty, so if we're gonna cancel the lease with GSA, we gotta waive our sovereign immunity, is that what we're being asked?
No, we already, it's like a revolving lease that we have with GSA. And we did way back when. That has never been updated since I've been at Property and Supply.
Okay.
So this is a new vendor to lease from. We've purchased outright from them many a times
So
throughout the year.
it's your recommendation?
Yes, I recommend this vendor because
So
it's
I
the
need to
best.
know.
So under a lease, have you been covered by federal torts? Is that what basically takes care of insuring these buses?
Our buses will be insured by Bishop. Lacey already takes care of all my lease vehicles or equipment.
Motion by Carol to move forward to leasing from Model One.
Yes.
Second by Martin. Any other discussion? All in favor? We're unanimous.
Good. Just a side note that in the future, would I need a resolution to continue doing these leases? Because I'm not seeing any resolutions, anything that really appoints me authority to enter into these leases for equipment or vehicles for the tribe. Kermit kind of had whatever Vern wanted at the moment. I mean, honestly. And he went out and did all the leases. Right now, I don't get questioned on anything, sovereign leasing, Chevy, this is new, and I got heavy equipment that I'm gonna continue to need to lease. So it might be something I asked for Bill to get with you on and say, can Delphine get signature authority on leasing? Maybe I can run it through legal before I finalize it or something. But if you can look into that, I appreciate it.
We'll look into that.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all. That's our agenda. Chef Hoy.